That's one. Yeah. That's one. It's gonna get.
You find a seat, Ron. We need the APC registry here. I'm gonna put your name on it. Might have to reverse your name back.
Before you left. It has to be stated in the meeting.
Oh, okay.
I got to work on that, but I'm being twice the day.
You did that.
Fine, I thought I hadn't done it. Find your name.
I got it right. APC. Now, this is Joan, and I had it just waiting for you.
Well, I thought Joan for a run thing today. APC said.
It's Diego.
Oh, no.
And that's not happening.
And then the vinegar gave you APC, right? Okay.
I turned it around when you had it the first time.
So that was Ryan. If it was messed up beforehand, that was Ryan.
Okay.
His name.
My card around it, she turned it back to, actually turned it around to the next one. Church. I sit back over there. Well, that's
Right. What you are. I don't know who you are.
Yeah, how you doing?
I don't care who did it wrong. I was just.
Okay.
I took care of it.
Well,
And she said, you heard the other relationship. Well, you got it wrong.
now we're missing a secret.
Yep.
I'm always teaching right now. Yeah.
How do I have you missing the? Yes.
And that, I don't want to speak.
I need a Lincoln chair.
That's where I messed it. Okay. You can sit right here if you'd like to. I'm finding your chair.
Open that door. See if there's
Why we need to have actually going all the way back. Right here. Years. And oral.
Oh.
And then,
Thank you, Jerry.
half of that. Yeah.
Somebody tell Randy to get in here, he's not gonna talk.
It's just,
Tell him, yeah.
It's good, you're that.
Like the restroom line is huge.
Yeah, then we need a few more minutes.
Full call to order, Area Plan Commission meeting for February 6th, 2023. Stand for a pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Brenda, can you call the roll?
Atkins,
Here.
Bothwell,
Here.
Royals,
Here.
Cottle,
Here.
House,
Here.
Piling,
Here.
Hicks,
Here.
Hunt,
Here.
Maynard,
Here.
Knuckles,
Much better reception in person.
Todd,
Here.
Wright,
Here.
Reed.
Here. All right, well, first up on the agenda will be the completion of the election for vice president. So I will open up the floor to nomination for vice president.
I would like to nominate David Broyles.
David Broyles,
I'd like to make the motion, Boswell.
Dave Broyles, and Bob Boswell. Any others before we close nominations?
Do we need seconds?
Excuse me. Thank you for the opportunity to be nominated and so on.
You did not want to, okay,
I would,
okay, thank you.
I'm gonna nominate Tyson Knuckle.
Tyson,
I'll second that for Tyson.
do we need a second for, Broyles too?
We'll see.
Okay, we got a second down there. All right, any other nominations before we close nominations? All right, nominations are closed, so we got a roll call for the Mr. Broyles. Broyles, or Tyson, nothing. Call the roll.
Atkins,
Mr. Knuckles.
Bothwell,
Mr. Knuckles.
Royals,
I'll vote for myself.
Cottle,
Mr. Knuckles.
House,
Mr. Knuckles.
Piling,
Broyles.
Hicks,
Mr. Knuckles.
Hunt,
Mr. Broyles.
Maynard,
Knuckles.
Knuckles,
Knuckles.
Todd,
Mr. Broyles.
Wright,
Mr. Knuckles.
eight to four.
Wait, the board carries that Mr. Knuckles will be vice president. Congratulations, sir.
I keep thinking my dad walked in. Say Mr. Knuckles.
Okay, so on the agenda, the executive, the executive committee at large, I would call it our last regular meeting. we were just gonna continue on with the 5 and then in our rules and procedures potentially change the makeup or whatever. So I just want to see how or where do we want to stand on that? Do we want to discuss that now? To keep it at the current 5 like it normally is, and then when we review rules and procedure, hopefully here in short order, if there's any changes to be made, adjust at that time. So I'm open for suggestions or comments.
I make suggestions, we make the changes now instead of waiting, because it's been brought up last meeting. And if we don't, it's gonna be another year before we do what we want to do. I think it's appropriate that we make changes, because like I said last time when I was president, that you guys, new person would come on to my executive committee. They only had 1 month. They didn't know what went on the last 6 months, if we had a problem to take care of. So how can you ask these people to be on the executive board when they don't know what's going on? And I think we need to stop that practice, because can you use them? And if you want the executive board to be done right, that's the only way I could see it should be done right. Because if somebody don't know something, how can you even ask them anything? You'd have to bring it back to the full board.
What change are you proposing?
The changes I'm proposing to do away with nobody being appointed on the executive board, just the president and the vice president. The rest would be open to all this board. And say, and put the motion to at least have 1 year experience. That way you've been here long enough to know what's going on. Because what we was having involved is could say a councilman quit. They sent a new guy. He didn't know what's going on. Or the commissioners sent, they didn't know what's going on. And all of a sudden we have a problem right when they come on. And it's been a couple of times. How can I go ask them to come and they have no clue, no idea?
All right, Robert, you have a comment?
That potential's there for that to happen regardless. I mean, we could have anybody leave, quit, and then a vote go through and somebody else come on. And if you're putting out a 1 year, does that exclude a person from, coming in, and you're saying like a new person can't be nominated for a president or vice president spot? I mean,
We could do it less than a year.
I'm just looking at the implications on down the line.
But I'm just saying they should at least have a couple months to where they know what's going on. Instead of walking right in the room like today, the first day. And we have a problem and say we have executive committee meeting. They have no clue what's going on. If it's somebody's been here a few months, they have a clue what's going on.
Chuck,
Yes, sir.
the,
Randy.
the structure now, is that the county codes method of acquiring the executive committee? Is there an Indiana code that defines how an executive committee, do you have that information?
It doesn't define,
It just says how many members you can have.
well, it
Yeah.
does say, there's a state code, you can have, the Area Planning Commission may set up an executive committee and it not less than 3 nor more than 9. And they're appointed from the commission. There is no county code, which you guys have as your rule of procedure, which says that you shall have one comprised of 5 members. Those would be the president, vice president, county council member, county commissioner, and 1 other elected from the remaining members who shall be elected annually at the first meeting of the year. And that also the agricultural extension agency member shall serve as a non-voting member, which here we have the surveyor instead of, so, but you can modify it. This is your board's discretion.
This is in the.
One, do you want to have an executive committee? You need to determine that. If you do, you have to have 3 to 9. And then the rules the members and everything is determined by this board. Now, the interesting take on that, it has, the operation or any rules requires a 2/3 majority vote of all the members. So that would be
So if we
9
were-
members.
So if we were to change it, we need to have 9 members vote yes tonight if we were gonna change any part of that. Is that my take, or your?
Well, you can establish, yeah, anything you do to the executive committee needs 9 votes. I mean, you can vote to disband it, say, hey, we're not gonna have one. If you do have one, then the rules, other than between 3 and 9 members, you need to determine what other rules or parameters you want to put on the committee.
9's your 2/3, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's you, I think you just cited IC 36-7-408.
Correct.
Well, I think what Rex is saying is that the executive committee be composed of the desires of this group rather than appointed by
Yeah.
elected officials. Is that what you're saying, Rick?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
That's what I heard you say, or I think that's what you're trying to say.
Steve, you're trying to make a
Yeah,
comment?
just, because if it did go to the 9 or even the 7, then I believe those executive meetings would have to be public because you've got the majority of the members there, correct?
Yeah.
So every executive session, whether you're dealing with personnel or anything like that, that's sensitive, just keep in mind, it's gotta be, I believe.
Yeah, I would persuade going to 7 because of that issue.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want
If that makes sense.
But I don't think at this moment we're talking about going to 7.
No,
It has not been actually presented.
I think Rex is saying leave it at 5.
Leave it at 5 and open it up to the whole board, anybody.
If you're gonna do 9, let's just bring it to the whole panel.
Well,
That's
that may be a reason behind not having one at all, so.
Yeah.
But I think there are needs for it, for behind the scene type operational
Yeah.
and logistics and things like that, and what's going on within. You know,
I have concerns about an executive committee of a few making decisions for the entire board. I do like the clause in there where if one of those members
Right.
opposes, then it must come back to the entire board. I definitely think we
Yes.
need to hang on to that.
Yes.
I feel confident I can make my own decisions. I don't know about everybody else, but
Yeah, and that's in the state code, so that can't change.
that's good.
in my opinion, at least on this, is I like the 5, and I currently like the way it is. For the fact that, yes, we may have a new member from the county council or the county commissioners, but they're representing a large why we're here. I mean, we report to the county commissioners, advise them. They are elected, or in some cases appointed until, or by caucus until election, to represent that part of the county government that, hopefully with their knowledge, they should know what they're talking about, or do due diligence, just like any one of us should do due diligence if we are a member of that committee, or of even of this body.
I'm taking that.
What's the
Jeff,
possibility?
what you're saying is, and you're saying they're smarter than the rest of us,
No,
because they're elected and they belong to a body and they should have a say so. Shouldn't everybody who's
well,
brought here by their enemy, their person who appointed them, shouldn't that person, enemy, have their say so too, much as them?
well, I also look at it this way. Those are 2 appointed positions. Those are 2 slots out of the 5 that are predetermined. The other 3 are all elected. You chose me, we chose Tyson. Okay, so,
4 out of 5, there's only one.
but we chose who was gonna be president. We chose who's gonna be president, we chose who's gonna be vice president. And we chose the 3rd person. So we're choosing 3 among all 9, or who's up
Then
here.
you're saying we're choosing, then why don't we choose all of them? Instead of people being appointed? Because the only reason we allow you, because you're president, and the vice president should go too, because he needs to know what's going on in case you're absent, and I believe in that. But if you're gonna talk about voting for positions and this and that, then Chuck, you just open the door. We vote on everything and everybody's position then. That's the way I feel.
Let's put some historical perspective to this just a little bit. I know when we went to the format that we have now, because I was the one that recommended, back when I was president. So that format was recommended as a change and was adopted to the previous format, which might be a better way for us to go at this time. The previous format, the one that has been in effect up until the last 6 or 7 years, was that we had 3 people elected at large with the president and the vice president there. We did not have an automatic person from, like Steve would be from the commissioners, nor would we have the automatic person from the council being there. At the time that that was done, the reason that they were put there was because Mr. McQuirk was the council person. He was president of the county council at the time. He had been here for a long, long time, and his reputation was squeaky clean, that kind of thing. And Mr. Burton, who had been a commissioner for a long, long time and had served on this board and had done so, as you know, he was, highly recognized just not long ago. And so it seemed like that would give us good continuity with good people, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm the one that made the suggestion that the format that we have now be put in place rather than electing 3 because you didn't know what you were going to get, kind of like the box of chocolate thing, which is, I think, what Rex is trying to refer to now and all that kind of thing. So it added more stability. You knew where you were going. You were going to have people that supposedly had more experience, et cetera, et cetera. At this point in time, though, it would be my recommendation that if we stay with 5, that we go back to the original format, that the president and the vice president be automatic, and those would be the only 2 automatics. And we would elect 3, people at large, and would give us 5. Another thought might be that we go to 6 people, and that we have all 6 of those people elected at large. That'd be a possibility, with the president presiding as a presiding officer, that as a non-voting person. That way you could get to the 7, you could avoid the quorum kind of thing. I mean, there's a lot of things that maybe we ought to consider in that. But my recommendation is that we would have at least 3 elected at large. And if you want to go to just 6 members, you can elect 4 at large with the president and the vice president being there. And as far as experience goes, I think that that is important. That was the reason we made the change when we did make it to the format that we currently have. Now, how much experience should someone have? If we're going to sit and look at the group that we currently have. Steve, you're of the new people that we have, you're the one that probably has been here the longest. How many months have you been here?
7 months.
Okay, so 7 months. Less than that for Mr. Hunt. Less than that for Mr. Hiley.
No, I actually was on the APC for 3 years
Well, I
previously,
understand. But
plus 10 years in the area planning department.
as a member here, as it is currently, you are exceptional. I understand that. But Mr. Broyles, wasn't, let's see, I guess, how long?
They've been here about a year.
A year.
We got about a
Okay.
year each.
Okay, so we'd only be eliminating a couple of people if you went to 6 months or whatever. Frankly, I don't care. I think anybody ought to be, if you're going to be here, you're going to be active. For example, we're talking about Mr. Hunt, Mr. Broyles, they've certainly been active. And they are, they are concerned. So I think they ought to be in the candidate. But I would like to see us go to at least 6 members. We ought to elect at least 3 from our group. And I would suggest we elect up to 4, which would give a total of 6 members. President, vice president, and 4 elected at large.
Is that a motion, Bob?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor and second. Is there any other discussion? So we will be voting for the change from the current 5 members to 6 total, with the president and vice president being automatic and 4 other ones out of large.
That's correct.
So this would be yes or no to the change. Yes, you want the change? No, you do not.
One question.
What?
This doesn't require us to take it back to any of the communities or anything like that. It's just local.
It's just our, your commission, you'll need 9 votes to make it pass.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, call the roll.
Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Yep.
Royals,
No.
Cottle,
Yes.
House,
Yeah.
Wiley,
No.
Hicks,
Yes.
Hunt,
No.
Maynard,
Yeah,
Knuckles,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Wright,
No.
8-4.
And no. So the current situation stays the same
Not necessarily.
at this point. So we can come back and review. We go and get into rules and procedures.
No, we can continue that at this point. It's pretty indicative what's going on here. Guys, I have pleaded and pleaded and pleaded. Ridiculous. It's time to stop. I'm just telling you. You need to know it. We've got a lot of this stuff is going on.
Well, what, you keep saying that there's a lot going on. What is it you see going on?
Well, just for example, the first meeting that you attended, you immediately, well, to show how our election said, this election process we've been going through for a couple of years. You were appointed, as I recall, and Mr. Hunt, I think, was appointed at about the same time, right at the very beginning of this year, correct? Okay. And the first meeting that we have, be the first one that both of you have attended. There was an exceptional situation where before our first meeting, you 2 gentlemen, I understand, were sworn in. You were given the oath of office on Friday before the Monday.
Mhm.
Had that ever occurred before?
no,
No.
not as long as I was in here,
Have we ever
7 years.
made that kind of an exceptional thing?
And that,
So
it's
it's
perfectly
apparent
legal.
that
Well, so remember until Kyle brought it up last year,
just a
I
minute,
believe we
just a minute.
never swore it anyway.
Just a minute. So to continue the thought is, gosh, why would we have to do that on Friday before our first meeting on Monday? I mean, we always do it at the very first meeting. But the first item on the agenda is going to be the vote. And going to be vote for the presidency of this group. Okay. And so if you haven't received the oath yet, you wouldn't be able to vote. Should, on a legitimate basis, not legal, but something on an ethical basis, should you and Mr. Hunt, for example, the first meeting, the first item on the agenda, you're going to vote for president. Legal, because you got sworn in. Okay? And with those 2 votes, that meant the difference in an election. Yeah.
So are you
Whether
just
or not that's
unhappy
an
with the
ethical
results
thing,
of the election?
I'll let you determine that, and I'm not going to make the assertion. But I'm saying that every vote that we've been taking recently has been down party lines. And we have been segregated here. Just take a look. You know, where we're sitting right now. It's the same place that we've been sitting ever since. And if Chuck weren't there, Chuck would be sitting on that side. I mean, this has become a we versus they. This has become a vindictive kind of thing on behalf of some people. We've had some people who apparently have been coached about who's who and what's what, and we need to get rid of them, or we need to do this. You know, I've tried, guys, as much as I possibly can to bring us together so that we can work together. This is not happening. It's not happening because some people have some very, very, I think, subversive kinds of agendas in mind. So I'm calling it out right now. I'm telling you, I think our whole thing that's going on here is a real mess.
I understand, I see,
And you,
there's two parts to every story.
There might be.
I see it the other way too, that maybe, for lack of better words, one side is pushing too hard for their agenda, and the other side's pushing back to say, hey, they don't like it either, what they see.
So one thing I'd like to say, what Bob said, how quick they come on. I was president. I knew that Bob was coming. I never was told that Mr. Hunt was coming on. Not one little email, no address, no email, no phone number where I could talk to him. And thank him for coming on our board and welcoming him and be a welcome party to him. The way I feel, I'm not gonna mention names unless it gets down to it. I feel that certain people, starting from the office up, talked about their agenda to him and got him on their side. Cause I could tell from day one. I could tell people where they're going when they're new here, if they've been talked to. I'm not stupid. And I see it. And just like over time here, I like to say about Chuck, like Robert said last meeting, when he said about the courthouse. He was directing it to me. Said I was out of line in the office, and somebody said, I would like to ask Robert, if you was at work, you had the rules of procedure and you wouldn't follow them, what would happen?
You know what?
Your boss would come and talk to you, wouldn't he?
My boss would come and talk to me, Rex, but he wouldn't scream at me.
I didn't scream at nobody. I went and had all
You would
two
not, you would not
witnesses.
talk to me in a
I
manner.
had two witnesses.
Hold on, Chuck. Let me finish. You would not talk to me in a manner that was described. That's why I didn't say anything. That's why I didn't bring up names. Now,
Well, I
I'd
can
like,
tell you
I'd
talk
like-
about me.
I'd like to make a motion. And I think this one is a middle of the ground motion. 7 board members, 3 appointees, leave the 4 or 3 that we elect. That adds 1 more elected person in there. Keep the appointees. That expands the group, that helps take care of the issue that we have with, new people coming on. Because if someone is new, we still have a good sound body sitting there that doesn't alienate the situation, doesn't create more animosity or alienate people that are already in the appointed group. And then we can have that extra person that we elect.
Second.
Hold on. Brian wanted to state.
No, I want to explain something. The reason that I didn't vote you in is exactly for the reason why, the way you're acting right now. Nobody coached me. Nobody coached me. I'm just simply saying it was solely on the way you acted. And I told you this the other day, didn't I?
But I could tell
So
you,
don't sit there.
I could tell when you come down, you was on
I don't know. You don't sit there and point fingers.
No,
at
don't
when
tell me
even
you
know
don't
anything.
count.
No. Everybody has their free opinion on how they feel they should vote. Robert, exactly what was your motion again?
My motion is we keep, it'd be the president, vice president, 2 from the county, the council and the commissioner appointed.
That's
And then we bump to 7 and elect 3. That increases the number of elected people, that takes care of the concern about having a brand new person coming in. That doesn't alienate any side by removing anybody, you know, and we're just expanding the board to take care of the situation of having brand new people coming on there. And then we can elect 3 at large. That expands that pool. I think that's a happy median. It keeps us from being.
But if we get to 7, aren't we necessarily a public meeting?
Yeah.
And then we have the majority.
Is that the?
Well, you can go up to 9, but it's based on, you can have a lot bigger body.
This is on that public meeting thing, would it not be correct, even though it might be a public meeting, that you could call an executive session of the executive committee?
You could call an executive session, you'd have to qualify under the statutory process, or one of the exceptions.
See, and there's one, yeah, and there's some, a special situation. So if you want just to call your 5 to discuss the process of moving ordinances or updating processes, whether it's the rules and procedures or the area, the comprehensive plan, talk about strategy on how we're gonna get this
I
accomplished.
apologize, I misunderstood.
How are you gonna get this accomplished?
But
I don't, that may not be a viable thing to call an executive session on.
But no official action can be
No.
taken in a
True,
set.
but when you have that many people there and you kind of, for lack of a better word, come to some type of consensus that this is the direction you want to go.
So why not just have a regular meeting at that point?
And I would note one other thing. It's been at least 2 years since we've had an executive committee. And we have not had, in my 2 years of being director, we have yet to have an executive committee meeting.
Fine, 6. I'll amend my motion to say 6. Keeps us under the limit, adds another elected person. Say it's middle of the ground approach to 2. It's the middle of the ground approach. We do elect the president, we do elect the vice president, so this body can control those 2 positions, and then we'll have 2 at large, and then the 2 appointed. It's a middle of the ground approach. So I would amend my motion to make it 6, the 4 appointed as we currently have, and the 2 elected at large.
Second,
You want to keep that?
Robert said that well.
Thank you.
Any other discussion before we take a vote? Seeing none. So now we are voting yes, we want to change to 6 members total. The 4 current president, vice president, county council, county commissioner, and 2 elected at large. Yes,
Can we just ask the question of, does the representative from the council and the representative of the commissioners, Mr. Wright, Mr. Hicks, do you guys feel comfortable being automatics? Or would you rather?
Yeah.
Yes.
okay, yes, we go to 6. 4 automatics and 2 at large. No, we remain the same.
So would that leave the president basically only in a tie?
No, these,
You mean, well, there's no official action, there will only be taken, well,
Executive committee.
there could be some personnel issues and things like that.
Yeah, the executive committee can actually take action in the commission.
If there's a tie, that means that there's a couple of people at the Senate, then it should come back to the whole. So, yeah, I guess you could say that, but if there's somebody dissenting, just like you brought up before, Randy, that it should come back to the whole. If there's well, is this right or not, it should be brought back to everybody.
I'm just, when we get there and it's 3-3 and then we ask what are we gonna do next?
So yes, to change, no, to remain the same. Call the roll.
Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Yes.
Royals,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
House,
Yes.
Wiley,
yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Maynard,
Yeah.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
I would have said yes too. All right, So now we need to select those two members, I guess. So we will, I would assume we would vote one at a time, one person in at a time. We don't do no group or anything. So we'll take a motion for one of the members, be at large.
I'll nominate Randy Atkins.
Randy? Do we have, we have multiple seconds. I think. So this is tricky here. Is that all we do? Because, as we have more than one nomination for this particular spot, even though we got another one coming.
I would say just go through, do roll call, get,
Yes, sir.
do the next one. That way I'm sure we don't mess it up at all.
That makes more sense to me.
To do this one
That
there.
makes more sense.
Up
You
or down
got
on
two
this
spots. Then, because even the statute says the naming of its individual members, so you're still gonna have 9 votes again, just a reminder, but.
9 to get on? No,
Yes.
wait. Yeah, on this one, oh, yes, okay. All right. So this
I
is.
didn't bring any peppermints, right, pass them out.
Oh, no.
Signs.
Okay, a vote yes is for Randy to be a member of the. Call the roll.
Atkins,
Yes.
Boswell,
Yes.
Broyles. Cottle,
Yes.
Cows,
Yes.
Hiley,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Maynard,
Yeah,
Knuckles,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
We're moving in the right direction now.
All right, so now we open up for the last slot, the 6th spot.
Nominate Mr. Hunt.
We have a motion from Robert, Mr. Hunt to be that person. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll when you're ready.
Atkins,
Yes.
Boswell,
Abstain.
Broyles,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
Cows,
Yes.
Hiley,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Maynard,
no,
Knuckles,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
It's 10-1-1.
So that carries 10-1-1,
Mhm.
and the other one was what, 8-9 to? The other one's full house, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. For the record. All right, we'll move on to regular business now. Approve the other minutes. Okay, we have 2 minutes that were sent out to us, one for January 9th, and then the special meeting on January the 18th. Let's do January 9th first. Is there any comments, concerns, or corrections on the 9th?
I'd like to make a comment if I could, Mr. President, before we go further and get away from where we were. I want it to be noted that I think Mr. Hiley is highly competent and highly experienced and can bring a great deal of good things to this board. My comments, Bob, earlier, well, they stand. I don't think that the process was correct. I think it has been, tampered with, that kind of thing. I respect your ability. I respect your past experience. And I want you to know that I think that you can add a great deal.
Well, and I respect you too.
So I'm just, I want that to be noted.
Thank you.
Beyond that, everything that it is.
Thank you. Duly noted.
I'll make the motion, we set January the 9th minute as they are. Obviously,
Okay, looks pretty good. Got a motion by Rex. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Robert, second. Call the roll.
Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Come back to me if you would, please.
all right. Royals,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
House,
Yes.
Wiley,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Maynard,
Yeah.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Yes.
All right, so now we'll look at the minutes to, I'm sure that passed, I didn't hear any notes there. The minutes of January 18th. Discussions? Comments?
I'll make the motion, we accept them.
Yeah, we got a motion to accept the minutes of January 18th. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I will second. All roll?
Atkins,
Yes.
Royals,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Sorry to be the complainer here this evening, but they are not correct. Therefore, I don't know. Item number 3, for example, says confirmation of election of officers by verbal roll call. That is not what occurred. Not have confirmation of the election. We had a new election. We didn't even have the same candidates ready. So there was no way that we could be confirming. So these minutes need to be corrected, need to be looked at.
So you'd suggest an amendment saying
3.2.
new election?
That's where
Pardon?
You would suggest an amendment to read new election?
That has to be changed.
You'd be good with that?
Just strike out confirmation of.
Saying that we cannot, from my perspective right now,
Okay.
if there's not a change made,
Right.
and we're already in the midst of a roll call, I say that we have to turn this one down, and then perhaps we can make an amendment to it to make it acceptable.
Well, I'd make, if I
I
may,
brought it up, that I would accept it, it's probably, anybody didn't have any changes.
so you would still want your motion
Motion
with the amendment?
with the amendment.
Anything else, Bob?
It's okay with me, except, we've already started.
We have started the roll call, so if we're gonna make an amendment, we probably need to.
That's gotta be fixed.
I don't know, technically, do we need to have you withdraw and start all over?
I'll withdraw and make a motion again with the change in the minutes. I make approval. Make the motion.
What's the wording that we?
So what is we're gonna put down there?
I think Grace meant to put continuation, not confirmation,
Well,
would be my guess. Continuation.
So it just needs to be election.
yeah, I'd say just take out the first two words.
Yeah.
Election of officers by verbal roll call. Which is the fiction of it. What do you think? Just remove those first two words?
Bob, you good with that?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
Okay, so just remove those first two words. So it'll be elections of officers by verbal roll call. Okay. We have a new second, or new first and second. Call the roll again, please. See if this is considered minutes, good.
Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Yes,
Royals,
Yes.
Cottle,
Did we do the pledge again?
House,
Yes.
Wiley,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Maynard,
Yeah.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
All right. It says here we have no old business. So we will continue on to new business. New business, we have a public hearing scheduled tonight, docket number 02C-23. Joe Boyd is asking for rezoning of a general business. Ryan? Somebody representing them here tonight? He's up there, somebody.
Uh, Tonight, like Chuck said, APC docket 02Z-23, petitioner is Joe McCoy. The petition is for a zoning map amendment for rezoning from the current agricultural district to general business in order to construct, repair, or operate a paper box company on the site. Location is 1115 South Pennsylvania Street, Marion, Indiana, 46952. Some of the things that we are noting within the staff report, that the area is already currently spot zoned at agricultural and surrounded by R1 zoning. The property has a long-standing and being a business. I noted all the way back to 1998, but I've been told it's decades from people older than me. The property and building currently is sitting dormant due to a recent fire. We have had people come and ask us about the building, but had no one take any steps or to buy or anything. So Mr. McCoy stepped up. For this, Mr. McCoy plans on refurbishing the building initially, and then possibly adding 10,000 square foot pole barn in the future, as one of his needs for his business is a truck docking station. He had originally requested for industrial zoning. Once we kind of talked about it a little bit, we decided on general business, more to protect afterwards should he leave the business in the future. By going general business, it protects the area from being industrial or having heavier or louder industrial in the future. Also noted, again, surrounding area is all R1. Here we run into another situation where we've got agricultural in the middle of R1. As we talked about in the last meeting, as far as what we're seeing in some of our zoning maps, this is just another case of that. Areas around to the north of the property is housing. To the east of the property is agricultural and field. To the west of the property is a church and more housing. To the south of the property is housing and a field. And again, noting that currently the business is set dormant due to a recent fire.
Is that business zone agriculture? Or the building one, or that's still business?
The whole 10 acres is agriculture.
Shouldn't that been zoned business? And
Yes.
things always ordered.
Well, that's,
That's the question I have really.
well, we have, this is, sorry, right, just down the street, we have the VFW
Yes.
is also zoned agricultural. So we again, here, we've got an area that's all,
Do we need to correct all that?
not right now.
I know, but in the future,
Yes,
correct all
we
that.
should. So, I mean, that's, basically, we actually, Mr. McCoy invited me over to his current, box factory. I was able to walk through the box factory. I took our decibel meter with us. By standing right next to the presses that they have, I was getting 65 to 80 decibels, which is just above conversation. Standing outside of the building, I could not hear any of the presses running at all. He has 15 to 20 employees currently, and he has been in business for some time. The building has been there since
Yeah, 125 years plus.
All right, so this is a public hearing that, if I'm right on the times, you get 15 minutes,
Yep.
20 minutes on the opposing side, 25 and then 10 to come back. 15, 25, and 10. All right.
I have a document that I would like to distribute to each member.
Well,
Is that possible?
usually that should be done ahead of time, though. I mean, we can get it out to the members we normally have them at that time?
Yeah, generally 48 hours. I believe what he's handing out isn't really in for, it's just what the bill is.
So you can capture in your mind's eye what I'm requesting for the operations.
Building plans or the what?
No.
No.
It's what he does.
What he produces,
I would still
product
say,
we produce.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I would still say anything that he hands out,
Yeah.
should follow that 48 hours.
Yeah.
Keep
So
that,
that's,
Keep that.
keep that, because I know we got a petition that came in and that met the guidelines of that. So we understand you make boxes.
Right, make boxes.
And maybe just to clarify for me, we're not talking about big corrugated boxes. We're talking about
We're
smaller
talking about
gifts.
smaller paper boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, keepsake type boxes,
Okay.
which is what I prepared this for, so you can get in your mind's eye.
If I might, Mr. President,
Yes.
that we set the rules aside for this particular, make an exception. At this point, rules can't be set aside, can they not?
Sure, you can accept, I mean, whatever
And
the
therefore,
commission's
we would
wish.
be able to have this distributed. And I'm the first one to say, you gotta sit by the rules.
Yes.
We do have the possibility of doing that. So
I support your,
if,
All right.
So then we'd have to accept something from the dissent side too, right?
Well, we got something, but it's somebody else to come in and.
Went by the rules.
And so we have a motion basically set to the side, a second, so I guess we ought to call the roll.
I haven't made that.
Oh, you haven't made it?
I'm just trying to bring it up to the group as a whole, that that is a possibility if you would like it.
Well, I thought we had somebody second.
I'm not sure that's fine.
yeah, Mr. Hyde, second.
You made the motion.
No, I have not made a motion.
No, he just made a suggestion, he said.
I think Bob, I thought you made the motion.
I still think for the sake of, since we started the year with, we're gonna follow rules, we're gonna abide by the rules, that I understand it. And I apologize, but if we're gonna adhere to the rules, it'd be better to.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I just wanted to make it out there so that you would have the opportunity if you would like. That'll be more cool for.
perhaps two,
No.
Yeah.
I really thought it was a good idea. I'm just laying it out. Do you want to do it or don't? Otherwise, let's just go on.
yeah, I was gonna just point out, if you look in the package of the document, when it gets to the pictures, on the second page of the pictures at the bottom left, is pictured some of the boxes that they made. So perhaps we already had this information and don't really need anything further.
Have a flavor of what you think.
So, yeah.
That being the case, I think it would be proper for you to give your information to.
Just for your information, I put in the public record with Mr. Malat. I did submit these to him earlier today, not knowing the timeframe required.
Okay,
Once again, my name is
so
Joe.
we're starting our time right now.
I got it.
All right, all right, let's go.
Once again, my name is Joe McCoy. I am the owner of the parcel that we're discussing here today. Bought the parcel off of Chambers Property Management. It has been fire damaged and I've maintained left part of the building up. Trying to figure out what I'm gonna do with it. One thing that comes up is a local corporation, which is Marion Paper Box Company, which I'm also the owner of. My wife and I bought that business about 15 years ago. We're wanting to put a design center in there. I want to move my office in there. And this document would have described that. Additional to that, design center would include, using Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Suite, AutoCAD, designing boxes, et cetera, which I can show you a picture of some of our work. In addition to that, we would want to put a laser cutter in for cutting possibly wooden puzzles, possibly cutting dies. And then we do want to put some small this is not heavy industry, but light industry in there of uh, a machine that would wrap these boxes. And here again, this would be part of the public record that you could get a hold of and review. In this document, we have addressed the environmental, which is, which covers noise, which Director Malott, it covers our byproducts, traffic, including employees, and shipping and delivery. We anticipate no environmental impacts over historical use of this property. This property, I was born and raised close, within 500 foot of this property. And in my 66 years, it's always been a business. Started with Crest Nursery back many years ago. Most people have never heard of Crest Nursery, but that's what it was when I was born. And so it's always been a commercial. On the property tax basis, it's always been taxed as commercial. I believe, I don't know this for certain, that some of the people who will speak against it have portrayed this as heavy industry. This is not heavy industry. For your mind's eye, it would be more akin to Pearson Printing, a printing company, Pierce Printing, those type things, because we would, in our design center, we would also request to be able to put in some flatbed digital printing capabilities. So I request, I think our application is twofold. The one fold is rezoning to fit its historical use. And then with a special exception usage to complete, which is what this is, what I was trying to get in your mind's eye with this document, that following the North American Industrial Classification System, the acronym will be NAICS, classification 3222212, would be what this would cover under that code. Using the NAICS classification scares people because they think that's big industry, but it's not. It's just it's a small industry. The previous building was 7,200 square foot. We're wanting to reconstitute that and adding another 3,000 square foot on possibly so that we could back our 24-foot box truck up to bring materials in and out from our main facility to the satellite facility. And so we're envisioning 10,000 square feet, whether that's on the same footprint that's there. We have not completed building renderings or designs yet, because if we don't get this approval, we have to go to Plan B and figure out what else will go in that facility. But I ask you and our neighbors to give us permission to follow through with what was outlined in here, and I hope I could have got to you today, but it is part of the public record, and our neighbors and or you can obtain that through Director Malott. Thank you for speaking to us. So I request that you accept, consider our application and take a company that has been part of a quiet corporate citizen in Marion, Indiana, Grant County, Indiana. We believed up until last year that we were the oldest company in Grant County. But we did find out that the casting plant, Atlas Foundry on the other side of town, is probably a year older than what we are. You've never heard of us, and we don't care. All of our business, most of all of our business is outside of Indiana. We ship nationwide. We ship small custom boxes for various reasons. We cover confectionery business, we cover medical packaging, We cover corporate gifting, packaging, small quantities. And we ask that you consider us to allow us to use this property and this reconstructed facility to use accordingly. But either my office, a corporate design center, and it's a small box production, particularly a wrapping machine to wrap these boxes. Any questions that I could entertain at this point?
Just, I have, just, with the waste, is there a lot of waste? I know the building you have now, and there's not a lot of waste around that, I know, but some paper companies end up with a lot of loose paper flying around outside. That's not gonna happen, right?
That's not gonna happen. We collect all of our, we call it off fall, it's the box cups.
Okay.
We collect all that and take it to the Eaton paper mill and sell it for recycling. So if there's a sheet of paper, we wanna capture it, contain it so we can sell it. We don't wanna blow it in any fence lines. And historically, you could go, if you so choose, you could go talk to our neighbors at our current facility.
I'm familiar with from where you're at. I worked for a utility company for a lot of years, so I know where you're
Very
at.
few people know about it.
Yeah, that's true.
So as the owner of this property, I'm asking that my company be able to use it accordingly as so said here to see.
So, question. If you're going to have trucks going in and out, is that be a case?
We anticipate, and I identified that in here, that we will have an occasional UPS. Most of our material is shipped via UPS ground. It's the guy in the black, the very brown suit and a little brown shirt.
Right. So it wouldn't be.
And we also.
Later semis.
No. I would never say never on that. I think it would be reasonable to think maybe we might have an order once or twice a year that we would load onto a semi. Or we would just I do anticipate, personally own, it's not the company, I personally own a 24-foot box truck. And I do use that occasionally and would use that to pick, the wrappers and stuff we're gonna glue up at my main facility and deliver this. So we would transfer material back and forth. So yes, a 24-foot truck would pull in there.
So this would be an auxiliary to your facility.
We call it a satellite facility. One of the main goals here is to enhance, our building's so old and the temperature's so fluctuation that getting digitally operated equipment, computers, going from hot to cold, laser cutters, plotters to plot samples, box samples, they don't fit well in a facility.
I've seen your facility.
It's, you walk back 100 years when you walk in there, so.
Well, my thought was if you ever needed to move your primary from where it's at, because it is old, then you would use your acreage behind, away from the other residents and the church and everything, to make their environment a better thing than if you were right up against the road.
I agreed. We would anticipate no further encroachment to the road frontage.
Just
That's what you're referring to.
so it doesn't look like a truck loading dock in the front,
No,
for the sake of the neighbors.
that would be,
You understand?
I haven't completed building renderings yet, so I just gotta go by mind's eye at this point. No, there would be no truck entering and backing into a dock in view side of the road. Obviously pulling in, it would be in view of the road.
But if you could drive it into the backyard, I'll say, and do whatever big truck stop.
It would not be seen. The truck unloaded would not be seen from the road frontage.
Your little truck, your 24-footer, but if you had a semi, it'd be nice not.
I anticipate that's not gonna happen, but I would never say never. I wanna be honest with my neighbors and you folks that there is that potential, possibly once or twice a year. I don't know. But I would never say never on that.
How big's your existing building, the one you're
Our
vacating?
existing building is approximately 15,000 square feet.
Okay.
And you're not leaving that, you're just,
We're not abandoning that building.
So you're gonna add 3 to the 7, and you're gonna add another 10,000.
No, well, who knows whether I'll be back here in the future to ask for 10 more, I don't know. We do hope to grow one of these days, and whether that we would request expansion of that facility or, good Lord bless, we found a better place.
So
that
the
existing
10's
facility.
not on the plans yet, the additional 10 warehouse you mentioned? I guess I thought you said that it's the current building 72 and you're gonna add 3 to it. But I
Right,
thought earlier you also said that you might add another 10-foot
Director
10,000
Block
square
mentioned 10 foot, that's what we discussed, 10,000 square foot.
as a warehouse.
You're also having the current building is gone, burnt down. So he's going to take it back up to 7,200 square foot. And then look to add, it's already got in the back of the property, it's already got a 6,000 square foot over
Okay,
sitting in the backpack.
okay, I misunderstood. I thought we were adding another 10,000 warehouse in addition to the existing that's burnt.
Not at this time, that's not what we envisioned.
You anticipate adding any employees?
There may be one or two employees added. You know, who knows what the future will hold, but yes, we do anticipate some economic gains for the community. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, so your investment, have you come up with a number on your investment that you're making into our community?
Oh, my. I haven't completely got estimates, but it could be 750,000, $1 million. I don't know yet, sir. I haven't got those estimates. This is my first stop and there's no sense in me going through that footwork unless I get your approval first.
The process that you use to make your boxes is the material that you have already made and all you're doing is cutting.
That is correct. We buy pallets and paper. Coming from a paper mill, we're not a paper mill. It's paper that we convert into boxes. So we cut it, glue it, paste it, fold it, wrap it, tape it, and voila, it comes out a box off of flat sheets.
Shift wise, how many shifts are you gonna run?
Sir,
Shifts of.
that was all
employees?
identified in here.
That's okay.
We want,
Just asking.
we want run one shift. Our production starts at 7 till 3:30 in the afternoon. Our office opens, I'm there from 8 till 5. We typically run just lots of one shift operation. We very, very seldom run overtime, never. I would say with a caveat that occasionally an hour or two, one person may stay over an hour or two. Me in my office, I may be there 2 or 3 hours after, so.
Timeline that you're looking at, completion?
Well,
If you got an approval,
if I got an approval, I would start, building design and getting floor put, depend upon getting, so I would love to have it done in 8 months, but, I don't think I can achieve that at this point. I think it'd be more of a year away.
and then, I apologize, I know where your building is, but the surroundings of that, have you had any neighbor complaints from where you are now?
There's one neighbor here will speak against this
Okay.
to you momentarily.
Okay.
His original 15 is,
okay,
just so you're aware.
well, not including our discussion. The discussion should not be held against them, I don't think, right?
Thank.
No. So he's probably got a little bit of time left, or if there's other people.
I didn't stop any
Discussion gonna come at the end of.
Yes,
the hearing.
I would agree.
All right,
Thank you. Thanks for hearing it.
so we'll, a few minutes left for anybody else in favor of, supporting this.
We don't have, it's up,
Right, 15's up.
it's over.
15?
There'll be 10 minutes to
Okay,
review.
rebuttal, then come back later, okay. All right, so now we,
If I could, real quick, he is correct. One thing I did not mention, with the zoning to general business, that will allow him to go to the BZA for a special exception.
Then he has another hurdle he has to get
Right.
through. So just because we may do this, may not complete the process. All right, so now we'll take anybody here in opposition that would like to come forward. State your name and I think they got a sign-in sheet up there.
Justin Shannon. I live at 1121 South Pennsylvania Street, so I am the neighbor. And I included a petition with only about 7 signatures in there, and that was all I was able to get done. Just found out about this like Monday, and I had to have my stuff in on time, Thursday at 4 PM, and it was. So I was only able to get 7 signatures. With another month, I can get you the whole block if that's what you want. But myself, which lives right next to 1115, and the other neighbor, Klaus Hart, he's on, his signature is also on the petition as well as my dad, who me and both, I and him both own the agriculture land also behind 1115 Pennsylvania Street. So I own the residential property next to it, and I just made a purchase this past summer of the 20 acres surrounding it in agriculture land. So I'm just gonna read my letter that I have here to y'all. I included pictures there in black and white, but I didn't feel some of those pictures showed justice of how close the property is exactly to my house. The big question here, guys, is a lot of you probably drove by here on your way here, or if you will, on your way home. We're gonna start with this and I'm gonna end with it. Do you want a factory next to your house? That's what it boils down to, okay? Would you want one next to your house? Well, I'm gonna go on with this. We received a letter in the mail Monday, January 30th, 2023. All of our documents are due in by 4 PM Thursday, February 2nd. Someone like myself that works a normal job in the community, work 9 to 5, get home. I got a few hours each night to go around to the neighbors to work on something like this. So, more time just to start with would be great, to work on it. I can do some research and get you environmental studies or whatever we need to make this not happen. So, it's impossible to contact all the interested parties in those 2 days. So the ones I did get a hold of, most of them are physically unable to be here. That's why they signed the petition. They're just little old ladies, or they just can't get out of the chair. Okay, so I went around and they're just not able to be here, physically able. So, Pennsylvania, there is 2 churches and the radio station there, but other than that, it's housing. I get what the property has been used for. But that's not my fault. It wasn't zoned for business in the past, but also none of those businesses were factories. They were a lawnmower business, a Chambers Property Service. Wouldn't like that either if we would have knew that was coming. We weren't asked of that either, but, because I find little whiskey bottles, stuff like that in my backyard. And they built that property up. It's all in there. I'm jumping around a little bit, but they built the property up so much that my backyard floods and it causes my basement to flood several times a year. Last year, maybe 6 times. So that's something that really needs to be addressed there as well. I'll talk a little bit about the sign that was put out there. If I would have seen that sign put in the yard of the public hearing, I would have had more time, but it was placed behind a row of bushes. There's a foot of snow. It's just not visible. It wasn't visible. I took pictures standing in my yard, and you can't even see the sign that was supposed to be there. So, let alone try and drive at 40 miles an hour to see that sign. And, it was also stated that Joe McCoy purchased the property on August 26, 2022 So, you know, he's had this amount of time to come up with his plan on what to say here. I've had a week, guys, not even a week, so. Sorry, but I could come up with better with more time, so. After we met with Joe on Monday night, he did not come around, and talk to us at all. The last time they tried to build a trash compactor there, they did, but Joe didn't come around, talk to us. We called him once we found out what's going on, and he did meet with my dad, Jeff Shannon, and I, at my house at exactly 5:30 PM last Monday. During the meeting, Joe stated that he bought the property to control the neighborhood, as well as saying he could just build a small office space or a 10,000 square foot building with a diaper. Sounds like a lot of possibilities to me. You know, what is it gonna be? Just ask yourself again, would you like to have a factory next to your house? Joe also stated that one of the employees of the most recent business at Chambers Property Service is actually the one that burnt that building down, that it was a disgruntled employee. So just another reason right there, guys, not to have it next to your house out, you know, but land and a house in the country to be in the country, not to have a factory next door. And then when bringing any kind of business into a rural neighborhood like this, it eventually is gonna bring undesirable people with it, okay? Whether even if Joe handpicks the people himself, he can't guarantee that people like that won't get hired. Cause most factories have several people like that, you know? Touched on that. And I have a close personal friend who has did some work in the Marion Paper Box Company and says that it is the absolute worst smelling place he has worked. One of the nastiest places. It's loud and it looks like it's rat infested. So, you know, I'm not looking forward to that coming next door to my house. I don't know about you. Moving this business from its current location, Marion, is not actually creating any more jobs for the city of Marion or Grant County. And all that's happening is to transfer people, equipment from one place to another. I'd like to hear an explanation on how a factory being set up in an area zoned for residential agriculture use will positively impact the environment as stated in the master plan. It will not positively impact social framework in the community because in the long run, it will only move the factory and its employees from one place to another. It also states that part of the reason is to keep the Marion Paper Box Company in the area. Is there really any threat of the company leaving Marion? As there are numerous other locations in Marion that are already suitable for a factory like this, okay? All you gotta do is drive around. City of Marion will lose out on the taxes business, while the county will gain this revenue, and will be dispersed all over the county instead of staying in Marion. Marion Paper Box Company can only plan to expand so far on this proposed new location of 4.67 acres because the landowners all around it will not be selling any of their land to further expand any farther, okay? As stated in one of the above paragraphs, there was a meeting with Joe, Justin, and Jeff Shannon where Joe said many different things. One of the major things that stuck out to me that Joe said is when I asked about, I said, what if I wanted to buy that property next to your house and build a business there? And before I could even finish saying that, he said, you can't do that. You couldn't do that. But it's okay for you to build a business, a factory, or anything next to my house. But even the thought of building it next to your house is, I can't do that. I couldn't do that. Why can't I do it? One of the other major things that Joe said, I can't forget it. I mainly bought the property to control the neighborhood. So is building a factory at this location really about expanding, making Marion a better place? Or is it about Joe McCoy having his way and controlling the neighborhood? If it's not about controlling the neighborhood, then Joe has a much larger chunk of property right next to his house that would be a much better place to build a factory at. And it will allow for more expansion than the 4.67 acres that's fenced in and surrounded by residential and agriculture land. I would not consider the area 1 mile. Okay, I'll skip that part, but. There are several other locations in the city of Marion that would much better facilitate a small light industrial facility. There are buildings already made for this type of operation. All that one needs to do is see this. We would prefer our neighborhood not to turn into an area of abandoned buildings and factories like a lot of the city has. I feel like that's just one step towards that. Maybe he builds his factory. What happens in 10 years when the factory goes under? Then we're sitting at it, looking at another empty building. Regarding the rezoning request will change the historical values of the properties and properties around them, as what's stated in the, what I received. What is actually the most historical about anything in that area is that the Shannon family has lived on their properties for over 100 years, okay? Nobody on the whole road has done that, all right? My dad's house is actually 123 years old, and it's touching the property that this we're talking about, 1115 South Pennsylvania. When discussing the history of this location, it is almost impossible not to mention the 3 fires that have occurred over the last 20 years. One fire being the house, another being the barn, and the most recent being the front building. And there is only about a quarter of that front building left. So I don't know what the grand plan is with that, but it doesn't look like you can do anything but tear the rest of it down, to be honest with you. And then there's a big pole barn that sits dead in the middle of the property. So I really encourage y'all to drive by there at daylight and see if this is the place that looks good for a factory. Okay, just, you know, postpone it, do what you gotta do, but drive down Pennsylvania Street and look and see, would a factory fit in good right there? I just don't see anybody saying yes to that. And the area planning papers I received, and the papers I received from the area planning commission speaks as, if by building a factory in this location will add value to the local residents and churches. When Joe gets to get back out there, I'd like explanation on how exactly a factory in the middle of farmland and residential properties and churches will add value to anything or anybody around it besides Joe's wallet, okay? There will be no more work involved in developing this area for agriculture, residential use than there would be developing a factory at the location. I mean, there's already cement and board. You're gonna tear it all up to build a factory, tear it all up and plant some trees. You know, every time ground is broken, concrete's poured, it's land that's not coming back, all right? If any of the previous businesses at this location in the past 30 years were zoned for business, we wouldn't even be here right now. We'd be building the factory there, but at the same time, the buildings that were built at this location and we had to go through process and they definitely weren't a factory, okay? They were small businesses, lawnmower business, cleaning business, whatever. Kingdom Come Construction was there. They had little offices there. It was never a factory, okay? The visual of this appeal of this property has never been considered before this, as there have been many structure fires that took a very long time to get cleaned up. I believe this one's already going on 2 years. The document also speaks of limiting, shortening, or reducing the usage of county roads. But with Pennsylvania being a county road, it will only increase the usage of the county road. It also speaks as if there are semis going up and down Pennsylvania Street constantly. I sat there the other night for an hour and looked out the window. One semi in an hour. I'm told you about the property being built up and it floods my property. And it's only get worse by building more stuff. That's why it's got that way. It wasn't that way when my grandma lived there, so. You said you noted something about the decibel levels that were read when you went to the factory, between 65 and 80. 80 to 85 requires, OSHA requires earplugs for 80 to 85 decibels, so. And the decibel level outside of an all brick building covered in steel sheets, the windows steel sheets, is gonna be different. Are you gonna build an all brick building and cover the windows and steel sheets at the new place to prevent noise? If that's what prevents the noise currently, is a brick building with still the windows covered in steel sheets, so. No, but still, but just back to more time. If I could get more time, I'll have more reasons. I can have more names on that petition. Reach up with that. So I just, the paperwork he dated with them was January 6th, I got mine January 30th, 31st in the mail. So I've had 2-3 days to react, to have my stuff turned in at 4 PM on Thursday, which I did. But it sounds like a lot of different things just from what he's just said that was different than what we said Monday night too. Laser cutters, die cutters, trucks, baby trucks, lots of trucks, a lot of indecisiveness. Ask yourself, guys, do you want it next to your house? Do you want something like that next to your house? Do you want to live next to that? That should be your answer right there. Do you want someone controlling your neighborhood? And do you want to live next to a factory? Answer those questions and that should be the answers to your vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any time left for anybody else that wants to speak in opposition?
Yes, there are still about 9 minutes.
9 minutes? Got somebody coming up?
And I'm Andy Ellis. I'm from Fairmount, and first I've heard of this. And really, I just want to give a recommendation to the group here. When you do these type of things, obviously there's investment involved. And of course, we appreciate that. But the other piece is there's a lot of what I would say almost missing information of exactly what's going to happen. I would recommend some kind of an environmental study on how this is going to impact the area, the surrounding neighborhood, and just even the ground itself. Because if they're using some form of stamping presses, experience tells me there's lubrications and things that go into these that will probably not fit the character of the current use. And I think that's important. I mean, and I'm really not trying to discourage investment. I'm just thinking that investors have a tendency to understate what the impact will be to that area. And having basically grown up and spent my career in an industrial area, I know that there are impacts. The noise is one, which I think will be unfavorable, but I think I'm more concerned about the potential for environmental issues surrounding lubrications, things that are going to have to be used. Laser cutting is something that you don't go about doing haphazardly. There are definitely concerns about doing that. So it's just a recommendation. I think there needs to be an environmental study, and most of it should be funded by the applicant in order to do that. And he has a facility, a working facility, which is probably a good place to start. Find out exactly what kind of things are emitted in that facility. And thank you for your time.
One more gentleman, got a few minutes left. Hey.
18 minutes and 25 seconds.
I don't need that long. I'm just gonna say a few words here. The only person other than Mr. McCoy that's been on Pennsylvania Street any longer is me. I've been there 65 years. born next to the house that he's wanting to build a factory next to. Currently live in my grandparents' house that's 123 years old. We've been on that property since 1926, okay? We don't want this. And my man here is very distrustful, okay? He hasn't talked to no neighbors. He didn't talk to us. I've known the kids since we were this big. Okay, you can't come across the street and talk to me. I have no trust in you, all right? He did, I asked him last Monday, did he talk to any of the other neighbors? Hadn't talked to any of them, but he stands here and tells you that all the neighbors are in agreement with him. Give us 30 more days and I'll bring you 40 signatures that will disagree with this. Okay? I'm not trusting this guy no further than I can throw this. Okay? Because it's all a lie. I was never told. And this ain't been made to have a factory. My son's house is within 100 feet of what his proposed factory is going to be. He has 10 acres right beside his house. If he wants to build his factory on his 10 acres, we'll have no problem with it, okay? He can go right ahead. Don't build it next to my son's house and my parents' house. And we already have drainage problems in the rear and to the side already from it being built up. 10 years ago, when our pillar of the community wanted to put a trash transfer station next to that house, I went and asked Mr. McCoy personally. I said, how would you like that? No way. We're not going to have anything like that in our neighborhood. And I personally went around through Sylvan Hills, every house, every church, Dave Paler at the radio station, and not one person wanted a transfer station in our neighborhood. And I'm positive not any people want a factory in our neighborhood. So I hope y'all can either give us more time or make a sensible decision right now, because it's a really no-brainer, all right? It don't belong in the residential neighborhood. Like my son said, take 5 minutes, drive down Pennsylvania Street and take a look. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Any more time? Like there's no person. Anybody else? Anybody else? All right, not seeing any, then there's a rebuttal time. If you'd like to come up, you can, or got anybody else here supporting you? They can speak to, and how many? We got 10? 10 minutes.
Please note that Marion Paper Box in 100 whatever years we've been in business has never had a fire. We don't anticipate any fires. I hope that it never occurs on that property. We ask that you would consider our application. We ask that for the environmental study, we did present some of that in this document here. And if you wish for MSDS sheets, they're available to you. We ask that you consider to allow us to make small custom-made boxes. And thank you for hearing me. All right.
Anybody else want to speak in favor? Got a few minutes left. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. It'll be open for discussion among the members. We can talk among ourselves, or if we have questions directly to a person.
I have a question. Clean up. I know this is residential, and we have talked about it before. If we change this zoning, haven't we been talking about don't do a lot of spot zoning in residential areas?
Spot zoning in general.
Yes. Haven't we been talking about not doing that? You know, that's my question with it. And another question. I'm like, people, I wouldn't want a factory near me. But I don't care if this business comes in and they pick a good piece of land, because I would love to see it in there in Grant County somewhere. But my opinion, I think it needs to be somewhere else. I thought that was just a little general business, that only could be there, because since I've been little, I knew the landscaping was there and a couple other businesses, and they was quiet little businesses and not enough to disturb the neighbors. And I have worked in little factories and over my lifetime, and I know how noisy they can be and different things coming in. And I don't think I want it, and I think this is spot zoning that we've been complaining about. I just feel like we should be spot zoning.
Thank you. Mr. Millar, do you have a recommendation? What's your thoughts?
To my investigation and, research, I would put forth a favorable recommendation. I think it'll be a quiet neighbor.
What about the drainage issues? What do we know?
It's first we've heard of drainage issues, but we don't have building plans.
He didn't come around and ask.
Yeah. So
You typed up a paper for him. It seems that Mr. McCoy has been represented by this young man.
Okay, well, this is discussion among us at this time.
Just to clarify. Unfortunately, it's his job to take the petitioner's information and put it into a pamphlet for us. And all he can't really look at it as, okay, I feel this way or not. It's based upon the guidelines. He's going down the guidelines going, doesn't meet this, doesn't meet this, doesn't meet this. Because it meets the guidelines. He can't say, yeah, it meets the guidelines, but I'd say no. If it meets the checkoffs, then technically it becomes favorable. It's not favorable, but it'd be good. It is favorable or not. That's why it comes to us to review.
Favorable, that's the favorable, we can never say.
But it's only based upon the ordinances, rules and guidelines that are laid out.
In reality, it's unfavorable with us.
And this is that form where that gets brought up.
When will we find out?
Yeah, so what he puts out there is just saying, based upon what we have in codified law, is this favorable or unfavorable? Technically, yes. I just wanted to.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you for clearing that up.
You're welcome.
Being like 2 against 1.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chuck.
Any other discussion? Thoughts? Randy, looks like you're trying to.
I guess my concerns, are that I would be more comfortable with a more detailed development plan than what your plans are. That's where my concern is at, and I think that is probably, not a positive thing for you to share with us, that you didn't know how we were going to, act. So you hadn't moved on how you were going to develop it. I personally would like to see a more detailed development plan before I can make that decision. I'm sorry that we can't honor that today, but, we're gonna follow the rules. We're trying really hard to do that, and we need to continue to do that. So, those are my concerns, and it might be that you get the opportunity to share that in a timely fashion to us.
So I have a question. Because even if we say yes tonight, it's not a done deal for him, because he has to go to BZA because general business.
His NAICS, his listing would allow it by special exception.
By special exception. So he has another hurdle, which he may have all these documentation that we're thinking, environmental, the drainage issue addressed and all that. Our thing would be is, do we really want to rezone this? Because it is a residential area for what it's been used for years. And if we don't, then should that building go away or not be used for anything, go back to residential? Live in it, Even what was there before should have never been there, apparently. It must have come in way before there was zoning and classifications or whatever. So way back when they were setting the maps and all that, 50, 60 years ago, somebody should have put general business or something like that back then.
Yeah.
Would the, I have a question on the drainage. Would the drainage board be able to look into that part of it?
I'm just
If there's a
suggesting
problem there.
possibly the,
There is a drainage
BCA.
issue with the water being held up on that property. The water normally drains south, and it hasn't done it for years because of the buildup of the property.
and perhaps that's something
It can
when
be
you get to
resolved.
specific development that the BZA can address.
Okay.
I think, is that
Yeah,
right?
there would need to be some drainage or done to, otherwise, if any more buildings done, it's gonna back up water on that property to the north. What they've done in the past already has done that.
So that would need to be corrected.
Correct.
You would think. Our job is going to, are we gonna be, let it rezone or not? That is our job. To get a building permit, they gotta go through BZA to get a special exception.
Yes. I feel like what Chuck said is a residential. We've been talking about, we need to quit spot zoning and, you know, I can't give them a favor because to me, it's like spot zoning. I'd love to see it come in if it was somewhere else, that's in a residential. And we've been talking about this out in the country, in the city, with people wanting to put in a little business. We said, why are we spot zoning? You know, a spot here and a spot there. And I think that's what we're doing here. And I think we need to stop.
No. Right now,
Right now. Business, but it's ag. Right,
Yeah,
all
it's
around.
already spots there.
Right.
it's already
Just-
spot zoning there.
Just something to think about, Rex. The flip side is that for 60, 70 years,
It's been,
this actually has been a general business commercial. And if anything, if as a group, we decide to call it general business instead of ag, it might simply be a correction of something that was not done right to begin with, you know?
I agree that something needs to be changed because it was a mistake.
Yeah,
But I don't,
it's been
I
that
just
way
don't
60
feel like,
60 years or so.
I just feel like industrial businesses I have worked in, factory, not like place to put it. I had, when I got out of high school, I worked in a small gas city. And it was right down in residential. And I felt like it wasn't the right place to be. Because we had semi trucks down there bring material in and haul the material out. And that's, to me, I know what's been there in landscaping, I remember it. And I remember Kingdom and all the rest of them.
Chambers.
If it was a general business, I would probably say yes, if it's something small.
But it technically falls under general.
I know. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
where
I just,
that's where I've kind of
Keep in,
happened to.
keep in mind, as we move, and just setting this up, as we move forward, we're gonna run into situations where as we look at our zoning table, that we have land that's zoned agricultural, or people are wanting to put small little businesses out there. And if we change the zoning table and it's agricultural, right? To where the BZA can do special exceptions, because that's what we've talked about, and we've been in that situation. He can come right back and go to the BZA, because that would be, and go right to them, rather than coming to us.
Yeah.
So it, depending upon what we're looking at, it might not matter. He would still be able to go into the BZA at that point, and then,
Yeah.
one thing I would note, I confirmed with him, right now, our assessor already taxes it as general business. So the assessor's office already sees it as general business.
Change, a question on the, we're using the word factory. Is this, your thinking about design and things like, say Pearson Printing uses that kind of equipment?
Yes, Pearson Printing and Pearson, Peerless Printing have some of the same equipment we have.
So, right, I've dealt with Pearson on some items and it's.
Kevin's got Heidelberg die cutters in there, which we're not putting die cutters in.
Right, well, you don't even know anything's going on in the building unless you go inside of it. But having a sound insulation for many residents would be an important thing. And maybe having a way set back where it's not obtrusive and it has some greenery out front to make the make it look like a residential neighborhood pretty much. Still have your sign and all, but you see what I'm saying?
I do.
I think that would help if we were to approve.
Well, like I say, we would be okay, Steve.
Yeah, just a couple comments. Because I'm here on both sides of this. I agree with Mr. Atkins. Taking a look at it, we definitely do want to keep business in the community. A couple things that I would bring up is have you looked at other locations in Marion or Grant County where you might be able to locate your business? Second of all, I heard loud and clear that there is a serious drainage problem there. Would you be willing to possibly help out with that drainage issue if you were actually to build on that land? Yes. Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman, is
he's
that
allowed
okay?
to respond because we're asking questions, so that's perfectly normal.
The only drainage issue that I'm aware of is at the back of the property, which if Mr. Shannon would allow me, I would tie into his fill tile to evacuate that water, but whether that would be allowed or not at this point, I don't know.
But not the drainage we're talking about, not the same drainage.
Okay, you're talking about more drainage up the front corner of the building?
In my backyard, not the field, my backyard. Yeah, there's a drainage pipe going through the, right under the burn part of the building, it looks like, and it goes into this gentleman's backyard.
Not with that pressure line is.
Yeah.
That line's a little off. I think that's more to the east, about the middle of the property, right behind the building.
Well, sometimes you'll find that they're grossly inaccurate. But yeah, if we have a drainage there that needs repaired and improved, because we don't want to cause problems for the neighbors.
And I agree with all these details that are coming up, but are those not details that should be worked out through the BZA in addressing any development that they want to occur, separate from the zoning, which is ag versus general business? And that's really our question.
So, yeah, they would be the ones that make stipulations. Well, yes, we'll approve it with these conditions, improve the drainage, landscaping in the front, whatever they feel is needed if they were wanting to say yes to it.
Yeah, so I
Well,
mean,
they could just say flat out no. But then if that's the case, then we got a piece of property there that's on general business and BZA will deal with the next potential commercial property that wants to go in there.
Jim, the map is showing that we've got a county tile running through there. Is it a tile issue?
It's a tile, it's an ancient tile, and it would cost thousands of dollars to fix it. It would be paid for by the landowners through the drainage board.
Does that drain north, does it, or is that drain south?
It drains south, the open channel.
Steve, you have a question?
So I know you purchased this piece of property.
Yes, sir.
You have plan B? If this doesn't go?
Yeah. I purchased it for a retirement project and I'll just move it in an antique car in there and rebuild it. There's a tractor out there, so I'll turn it into a residential. I mean, there are other options.
Well, I'm talking about your business. In other
About my
words, is
business?
there another location in Grant County?
We've been looking for several years for another location. The location that I wish I would have bought, that I could have bought, I didn't for a specific reason, was Tulux Plastics building. Would have loved to have that. Franco bought it. I also looked at the Franklin Electric building over in Gas City. Would have loved to have that. But that was probably more than I could bite off. Recently, we've looked at, I call it the Clown Building. It's the building behind Kirby Risk. That used to be the motor building, which they painted off on the side. It looks like a circle. Yeah, I recently looked at that, and it was not adaptable really to what I need. And I've looked at, there's another building that a guy would give me that I would love to have.
It was a plating company over on Virginia Avenue, I believe. But it's full of, 200, 300 barrels of toxic waste in there. $500 or maybe.
Certain areas. What's that? I know that's what you're gonna run into in certain areas, the environmental study.
There's only one other building that may be available for lease. It's out by on Miller Avenue, where they have the flea market was in there most recently out by Napa. But it's priced way over my head at this point, so. Other than that, there are no other buildings. I've canvassed the whole city. The only other buildings that would be.
So this year,
To us, it'd be a Peru,
Yeah.
Wabash.
But you're talking about building anyway, right? I mean, I agree.
We're hoping to,
Yeah,
but,
so,
probably the other alternatives is outside the county, which I'm not using that for a bargaining chip here.
I get it.
Peru is a nice building, we're good available to us. Muncie has some, Wabash has some, Huntington has some, Bluffton, we're in a good location, but we're not campaigning to do that. Our foundation is here and we're still going to do that.
Guys, please. So, I mean, if the chair's ready for a motion.
Any more discussion? You ready to make a motion? I'll take a motion.
I would move that we table this and let us do some further discussion and maybe get with Mr. Goy and get with, Mayor Rock, Mayor Allenball, Growth Council, and see what other properties might be available. I can think of one that would possibly fit this bill. And, would like to have that time to explore that opportunity because it does sound like you have a plan B for that property that would be probably more conducive to the neighborhood, for doing that. That would be my recommendation that we table it until our next meeting.
Second to
I'll
my.
second that.
We can go through this. Material.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay, so Steve made a motion and I heard it first out of here. To table this for a little further investigation among ourselves. Steve, you gonna have that up a little bit?
I'd be more than happy to if the board agrees with that.
Caldwell?
Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Yes.
Royals,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
House,
Yes.
Wiley,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Maynard,
Yeah,
Knuckles,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
All right, so the motion is tabled. We'll do some investigating, maybe up with potential options. And then come back, and if there are no options, then maybe we'll have to address the issue officially. Yes, sir.
Would we be, known when your
Next meetings, our meetings are always the first Mondays of the month, 7 o'clock right here.
and that's when we tackle that.
So hopefully we'll have something back next month at that time.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Let me ask a question too, since we have two people that are disputing this. Would it be proper for us to have a continuation of the public hearing so that both parties have an opportunity to speak at the next meeting?
We advertised for a public hearing, we got the input, we closed it and tabled it, so I'd have to say probably no.
So you're saying that nobody gets to speak to this from this point forward?
We've collected.
If we chose to, would it be
Yeah, you
optional?
can always optionally let anyone speak at any time. You've had your public hearing, you've met a legal requirement. If you want to add more later, you can.
So we could still listen to them.
Yeah, we said.
I just think that there needs to be the opportunity before we make a final decision at our next meeting or whenever, that both parties have the opportunity to take the time that we are utilizing. And they take the time also to be able to either have a rebuttal or a suggestion. You know, the one party asks for, the additional month, which we're going to end up doing. But, you know, are they gonna be allowed to speak? And is this gentleman gonna be allowed to speak as well? And I think that we should do that.
I think so.
So,
Especially if he's got internet call.
Yeah, it's doable, he says. We can just opt to at that meeting.
okay, so, but for us,
But it wouldn't be a
we understood
public
we're
hearing.
going to do that.
Yeah.
We'll just take comments.
Just, we'll take additional comments for the public hearing.
Right.
All right. Now we move on to additional public hearing, docket 01C8-23, bed and breakfast. So this is what was, motion to come to before us at the last meeting. This is to correct some, issues within our ordinance, right?
Yes.
So we got three of them here that we are going to address. The first one being up bed and breakfast, Airbnb type situation within our. So this is considered a public hearing, right?
I would ask if the commission, I mean, these can hold the next month. You have the attorney issue to discuss tonight too. And you're already at 9 o'clock, so I'll leave that to you. You know me, I'd love to talk about the ordinance. Kind of leave it up to you.
We're having too much fun. Okay, yes. Would we want to hop over to 6.2, which is discussion on attorney?
We'll make a motion to table
Yes, let's table those.
the three documents.
Table those for now. Unless we really bust for this, we'll come back. All right. So after our last special meeting, myself and Randy went to talk to the county council, asking for additional appropriations to maybe, investigate the full ordinance that was adopted by the county commission. Basically, right?
Seeking funds to review.
Seeking funds to have reviewed. They basically, I believe they actually tabled it, didn't they? Or they said no, but tabled it.
They encouraged us to use the 12,000 that we had with the condition that if we needed more, we could come back. That's what I took from it.
That's what I took too when I was sitting in the back.
So there, yes, we have 12,000, that's a lot in our budget that we normally pay on attorney that handles all the office stuff and hopefully guide us through properly. So I guess our options are, we need a person to help the office, filings, proper, which we can discuss here in just a moment. I don't think if we divert all that money or most of that money to research on this particular ordinance, the office is going to come to a grinding halt. If we do both at the same time, okay, we're gonna allot some that, okay, we can get 6 months and then 6,000 on the other, then when June comes around, we'll be back at the county council asking for money to finish out the year. They may be okay on that, or?
But I feel like we already voted to move on, find our answers. We don't know if it's right or wrong. And the way I feel is, until we find out we're following IC code or some legal document, it's right. Because we have questions on it. I'm not saying I'm totally against ordinance. Solar, I'm just saying I want this stuff that we know deep in our hearts, we're doing what's right. And this piece of paper we got is right, it's this solar ordinance. And we voted to move on. I feel like we need to move on and just do it for it satisfies all of us.
So what you're saying is, they did not give us additional appropriations.
Correct.
So you want to use a portion of the money that is appropriated for us to hire an attorney to represent us on a regular basis, divert that towards,
Cause they said come back.
What I got is that rather than them appropriate more money to us, they would prefer that we use what we have and then come back with whatever needs we may have.
Because if we get a new lawyer, it might be more than, and we would have to be asking anyway.
And I have 2 points. I heard that meeting and I know that was one of the comments that was made by the council. But I heard them say along with that, that's if how the APC chooses to spend their money. In other words, they're not making that decision for us.
Yeah.
They also expressed quite a bit that they were very reluctant to get involved in using taxpayer money to fund an effort that might promote a lawsuit against another agency.
Yeah.
Okay, just to be fair. The second thing that I would note is that there have been a lot of allegations that the ordinance violates state law. What I have yet to hear from anyone, and this is what keeps troubling me, is it did go through the process of our attorney and the commissioner's attorney getting passed. And those who allege that there are violations to state code have not presented any detail. What portion do you feel does not meet the state code? And, you know, what is your evidence of that? So I'm not sure, you know, we've got this thing in the ether that says, oh yeah, there was violations. But we've not been given an opportunity to say, what are those violations? Let us look at that and see what we think.
I don't know whether you're at the meeting, but what I did.
I saw it on WebEx.
Yeah, what I did, Bob, is I actually brought a copy of the Indiana Code and I referenced the area plan basics that stated that the area plan commission is the sole decision maker in the development plan. And the ordinance reads that the area plan will make a recommendation favorable to, accept or not to the commissioners. And that's where I believe that there's some discrepancy in what the Indiana Code says in regard to what the ordinance says.
I will take one issue with that. I believe if you review further in the Indiana Code, you will find that it says the commissioners create the area plan if they choose to, and that they are they have the final decision. Okay, so it's not like we're an independent body that can make a decision and has to be complied with. We exist to advise the commissioners and to make recommendations, favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendations. But the final decision is ultimately that of the commissioners.
I don't think there's anybody debating that. I think there's enough.
So what is, I mean, can someone delineate item by item?
Another
Where
thing that I
they
saw
feel-
in, and what I seen, one thing I seen is we set the fees. The way our rules are here, we set the fees. And the way that ordinance was set, the commissioner was telling us what the fees was. We always set the fees. Nobody else ever told us.
Well, so
Because we know what our office fees, we set our office fees with our person who's in charge in there.
Bob,
Through this ordinance, if commissioners tell us what the fees are.
if we have a subdivision that we're dealing with, we've dealt with it before too, do we make a recommendation to the commissioners or do we make the final decision? If it's a CAFA, contained animal feeding operation,
the ordinance on CAFOs, we would make a recommendation. They would make the final decision. Yeah,
I don't think
I
that's.
think when we have.
it is.
That's not the way it happens.
We voted,
That is the way it happened.
we voted here.
That's up
and
to
told
us.
them what
We
the-
voted and
And we're
passed.
the ones who got sued and so on. So I think there are exceptions. I think by and large, what you said is generally true when we're talking about zoning and so on. But there are at least two areas where we make the decision. It's not a recommendation.
Yeah, I will beg to differ, but you know, we'll have to agree to disagree.
We'll have to.
I think another spin on this is,
But I think that making an overall blanket statement that we are subject to the will of Mr. Wright, Mr. Barclay, Mr. Stewart.
Ordinances, they have the final say.
Yeah,
Considering the,
a blanket, that's not blanket true for everything. We are independent in some areas. Okay, so that
Not on ordinances.
just so we don't throw it out.
Yeah, no, I'm specifically saying for ordinances.
Yeah,
And that's what we're dealing with here is an ordinance.
yeah.
And so I would ask if there are parties that can delineate the details of what they feel is actually a violation of the state code, then I think that should be, and evidence of that, then I think that should be delivered to the commission here to give us the opportunity to look at that and see if we feel it is valid.
Yeah, there are.
I think what we're
Feel what it is, there are people who feel too, and that's what we're dealing with.
Gentlemen, can I speak real quick?
Asking.
This is going to come down to the fact that you are going to have to find out whether the 1400 series, which is your development plan that gives Area Plan Commission the final say, is legal, or the 1500 series, Plan Unit Development, is legal. They are both Indiana code. They are both ways to go. There are 15 different orders of approval in the state of Indiana right now today. We've got to prove that ours isn't legal. We use the 1500 series. Those who want to look at the ordinance say that the 1400 series is legal, 1500 series is not. Ed, is that close?
You're kind of in the ballpark, but there are multiple things that are questionable in that ordinance. Come up to the stand. And one of the reasons you're hiring someone. Come up, stand, we can see it.
Y'all know me, I think, Ed Hartman. One of the reasons you're gonna hire an attorney, a qualified attorney, is to try and set these things aside that are questions. We can look at that ordinance and we can debate for a long time, but some of these things have not been tried in court either. Now, there are some things that seem wrong on the surface. Okay, one was, we sent the commissioners, the APC, not me, you guys, sent the commissioners a completed ordinance, signed, ready to go. Their choice was to amend it, reject it, or enact it. What did they do? You had one choice: reject, amend, or enact. They took a different path that was not in state code. They took a path of reject and substitute draft 4. Didn't even change anything, didn't do anything with 7. That was the one they were supposed to amend. Did nothing with it. Sent back 4. Didn't make it look like 7. Didn't take anything from 7 and put it in 4. Sent back the original 4. Okay, they didn't follow the process. Does that throw it out by itself? I don't know. You'd have to take it to court, or you'd have to get a good attorney's opinion who's going to say, yeah, we can win on this. The other thing was what you've been talking about. Who has the sole authority to approve the development plan? Just on that thing alone, that could make a big difference. Ryan says there's 2 ways to look at it.
So is.
What is everybody else?
I know you've been interested in this issue.
Mhm.
Would you be the one that could provide us with a detailed list of what the concerns are of where you believe the violations are of code?
Well,
I mean, as was stated earlier, we have a number of new members here,
yes.
and it would be useful for us to see, well, item 1, we believe this violates state code, and here's why. And item 2, and then we would have an opportunity to look at it here before we would be making any decision to spend money.
I've resisted doing that because I'm not even an attorney. And an attorney can't tell you for sure how a judge is going to react. If you build a whole case based on several things that went wrong, they may throw the whole thing out. There's also no severability clause in that ordinance. But besides all that, you guys voted to find out, and there are enough questions worth finding out.
Yeah, we voted to find
I'm
out
sorry.
pending approval of funds from the council. And we did not receive those funds.
I was also at the council meeting and they said, spend the money you have first. You have a legal set aside fund of 12,000 and, you know.
They said that's
And
an
they also
option if
offered
the
an
APC
option of-
chooses to do that.
Yeah, as the APC chooses to do it, and then at some point, you're gonna probably run out of funds. When you hire another attorney, it may cost more.
Robert,
You know, so you'll be
I
back.
have a couple things here. And one, is this something we can reach out to the AIM attorneys for? Because I know the Association of Indiana Municipalities has attorneys that we can send in questions that they could come back and give us answers, and it's typically done free of charge, one. Two, touching on your point, it was hire an attorney pending on allocation money, and I get we have $12,000. $12,000 isn't gonna go a long way if we're talking, we might have to take it to court. But, yeah, I'm just, no, hold on, just let me, what I'm saying is, you are tapping into a concern I have with, we don't know unless it gets tested in court. So at what point then are we, I mean, we don't take our 12 grand and say, here you go, here's $12,000, bing, bam, boom, and then we're out of money. And then we hope and pray that the county council is gonna be gracious enough to allocate us money to be able to get us another attorney so that we can move forward with the demolitions and other court cases that we had in the county as a whole also. I mean, I understand the desire to flush this out. I would just also understand that we have a very limited amount of funds that we have to deal with, and it is truly a hope and pray that if we go back and say, hey, we're out of money, because we made the choice to do this, can we get more money allocated so we can do this? It's very likely, I mean, just as likely as it is not, that the response is, no, you chose to spend your money as such. We're not gonna allocate anything else. And then we have communities that have things sitting in court that are not gonna be torn down. I know you're right there with me. I mean, this is something that, you know,
I agree with you there, Robert, and I agree.
I think it's a stretch.
But I was hoping that this would just go to a lawyer. If this, the ordinance, he'd come back and say, you got 3 things wrong and nothing wrong. And then we go to commissioner and say, commissioner, a lawyer said, this looks fishy. Would you please look at it and maybe change it, you know?
Well, if we found something, we could
talk back and forth.
We could offer an amendment.
And not go probably to court. That was my hope, this whole thing.
The motion
Just get
and
clarification.
it's approved is for us to be able to take care of everybody's concern here. We're not talking about going to court at this point. That's a decision that we'd have to make somewhere down the road.
well,
We need to find out whether or not there are grounds. That's what our motion is about. Do we have grounds? An attorney needs to be employed, which can be done for, you know, less than $12,000.
So how do you feel about his suggestion of going to the
That's right.
state
We can do
attorney
that too, but in
to
the
try to do it
meantime,
free?
In the meantime, we have, you know, the other option. That person may say, well, I don't think, or whatever it happens to be. But someone else may see it the other way. I don't know. One question though that I'd like to ask is, I think the BZA has already chosen months ago to go forward with a suit or some such thing. Did the BZA discuss attorney tonight? And if they did, what was the outcome of that? I was here, but I sat back there and I wear hearing aids and I couldn't hear.
Okay, the BZA in the past was sued and then responded to the appeals court and filed suit. Okay? county council didn't have any problem with funding that. Right? I don't think you have to make a great concern on whether or not you'll run out of funds this year and not have a lawyer to do the things you need in this county. Now, a budget was suggested by Kyle that this ordinance should be able to be reviewed for around $6,000 along with the conflict of interest. The BZA did vote for an attorney tonight to do just that, who said he could do it for 6,000 or less, what you need done. Randy has his work experience. He's a very competent zoning attorney.
You did approve someone for that.
Yes, the BZA did approve someone and wanted to recommend someone, this person, to this body to join that. And if you read his experience, I think you'll feel like this is a pretty competent person for this job.
So does your hiring this person depend upon our joining that, or?
We would like to be
You're hired
unified on this,
anyway?
not going different directions with different attorneys or anything like that.
So
It seems not like the way to go.
to do just what you said then is what we were talking about doing here. If you've already made that kind of commitment, is there a reason that we can't just stand aside? We're obviously going to have a dispute among ourselves. Not unusual for us, but, is there, apparently, it's already done. You know, one of our agencies has already moved forward and determined that they were going to employ this person. And so it would seem that, you know, we should wait for the outcome of that. That would be.
Yeah, I don't think we need to spend our money if someone else is doing it.
But our
It's
money
all
is also
county's
their
money.
money. It's all the same.
Oh, no, but this can't come out of our budget unless we approve it.
Well,
That's
They,
true.
they don't have a budget.
well,
That's true.
but anyway,
It's all taxpayer money.
It's all the
Seems-
same.
it seems to me
Let's not waste it.
that we can, you know, I have.
Well, don't you want to know if this is illegal? Do you want to have an ordinance that is not properly created? Is that what you want to have?
I
Do
think,
you want to be embarrassed by a lawsuit from outside?
I do
Again,
think,
where's the deed?
I think the area, I think the body as a whole decided that we were okay with looking and seeing if it was illegal or not.
Yeah.
It's just contingent upon funds. Because as I said, funds, you know, funds are the key thing. We have a lot to balance on both sides. As Mr. Bothwell said, wheels are already turning. So whether your attorney proves it's illegal or we hire an attorney and that attorney proves it's illegal or legal, it's already down the path. So
But I do agree we need to know.
fair, but it sounds like it's already in motion,
done.
yes.
Well,
So it's
you
a-
already voted for it also.
We don't,
So it's kind of a moot point on our part because
yeah, let's wait to.
Well,
see if the
It's a
outcome-
mute point, but if we don't approve the expenditures, right, we have the budget.
We would have to go to county council and ask for those
Yeah.
funds.
But
Oh,
they're
so
doing
you're
it.
asking us.
It's done.
It's the same thing.
It's a done. From our point of view,
Will, you think we?
My opinion on this, if we don't find out, but we have a few questions,
if they do.
when it does come in front of us, how do I know this piece of paper is right? And how can I vote? My conscience would say I cannot vote on, it, because I do not know if it fits the right IC codes, because we've been preaching from day one. I've been on here, we need to get back and follow state codes or a legal document we have. It says we have to do, and that's what I want to stick at. And that's what I've been, when I was president, that's what I thought we would look at when we look at the ordinance. Take it to the lawyer, like I said earlier here. If he said it was wrong, give it to commissioners and said we found out some stuff wrong, which we change it. The county council thought from what I heard, thought we'd vote bicker back and forth. And at the end of our meeting, I tried to tell them, no, that's not what we're looking for. We're just looking to see if it's right. And if it's right, we'll move on with happy faces. If it's wrong, we'll ask nicely for changes. We're not looking to fight between agency or call the big ruffle. We just want to see if it's right.
But they did deny the funding.
They just said these are.
They said that's an option you have. They didn't.
So
Robert's
are you
point,
asking us to provide the funding for this? Or do you already have the funding? I just want to make sure.
I don't have it. I didn't go to the council and ask for funds.
Okay.
I mean, you guys went to the council and asked for funds, and they said you've already got funds.
Yes.
Spend those
So-
funds,
spend
and
those
if
as
you
you
need
see
more,
Right.
come see us.
So
But
Robert's point that we can get a hold of a lawyer who's not costing us anything seems like a good start. Let's go that way before we spend funds that we have to look up.
We're not even spending funds.
Well, do you have a competent zoning attorney like this?
They're going to.
Well, I would,
And
I would.
so you're in, yeah, we would contact that person. That'd
Yeah,
be fine.
I'd reach out to.
In the meantime, our discussion.
Yeah, let's start with that. Let's start with money that we don't have to spend. And if we do have to spend money, make it down the road. So let's go with what we can.
That's what I'm saying, Dave. We don't have to hire anybody tonight. It's already been done by another agency to examine the exact question
But we have to fund
that
it.
we have raised.
But we have to fund it, right? We have to vote to fund it.
That we wait
I guess, David, the only
to
thing,
hire
and
an additional. person.
Robert, the only thing, you don't hire a divorce lawyer to take care of personal injury. You don't hire a personal injury lawyer to take care of divorce.
We're not gonna try to do that.
No, what I'm saying is you want to try and get the most specialized individual that you can in order to get the accurate information that we're seeking to have here. And I believe that's what's been presented in front of you is a resume that supports that. Because I see this move as a insurance policy to avoid litigation, not to lead towards litigation. And I didn't get any feel from the county council that anybody wanted an ordinance that was considered to be, not in line with the Indiana code.
Fair.
And I think the
We don't
last
want that
statement that I made when I
wants that?
talked out was, is it my understanding, council, that in the event that we run out of money, that we can come back and ask for more? And that was my understanding when I left. That's the condition that they gave us.
Sure.
That they preferred that we
You can
spend
ask.
ours first.
But that, they did not say they would grant.
Hold on.
You know what? I watched the
Well, for the
commissioners
just look right now.
approve $5,000 shares for the dispatch. And I believe that, I believe that this is every bit as important as getting chairs for the dispatch.
You guys hired this.
Yes,
The BZA is paying for this person.
the county will be paying for that person unless they decide not to.
Okay, so.
But how would you think you should deny legal counsel in a situation like this when you don't know?
Okay, that's not.
Right.
How would you deny free legal aid
If
rather
it's
than
worth
pay
anything, is
Yeah.
free worth anything?
Well, let's start with
So,
that. Find
well,
out.
hold on. So,
What answer do you want?
reaching out, so.
They've already made that decision.
Okay.
It's separate from us.
But
They
if
have
they-
made the
but
decision,
they're
but they
wanting us,
are-
they're wanting us to take the money
We
from our
can-
budget to pay for it.
We can look for
At
the
this
big
point.
guy. That'd be fine.
Let's start with that.
Get an opinion. Start and perhaps end.
Yeah.
All
At
right,
this point in time,
like I
we're
said,
looking at the hearing, that hiring process. I say that they have made that a moot kind of point for us because they have already determined that they are hiring this person to do exactly that. That's it. That's another body. We don't
Then
need
they
to deal
should
with it.
provide the funds.
they should provide
Yeah.
the funds
We don't need to.
But that's what he's saying.
That's outside.
He's asking us
for
to
the
join
funds.
with them to
Well,
take
they
our
would like
funds to pay.
I
to help
don't
pay for this
suggest
attorney.
we
That'll work.
All right.
I don't,
All right, let's
I'm
get
with
some
you.
other comments.
You and I are together.
Yes.
Steve, right?
Let's move on.
What, do you have some comments?
I want to go home.
Ball game tonight? No. I just have one question. Is this the attorney that drafted number 7?
Yes, it is.
Well, that was certainly a bogus thing as I've ever seen where you want a realtor to say, oh, there'll be no property value issues within 2 miles of it. I can't imagine any realtor want to Was in the paperwork.
Did you read drive 7?
Yeah.
It doesn't have 2 miles. It
It said 2 miles.
doesn't have 2 miles in there. You're wrong. 1,320. It has 13 20-foot setback.
Oh.
That's a quarter of a mile.
All right. Quarter of a mile.
Quarter of a mile.
What realtor will sign a thing saying you want to have any property value issues? What sane realtor would do that?
What's
See, that's the
sane
problem I have with the,
Are we talking about a realtor?
well, there was a provision about, if we,
Property guarantees.
property guarantees. So who's gonna sign a thing that says, oh yeah, you're guaranteed?
Who would sign that?
Yeah, who? Who
How
would?
about the Mammoth Solar Farm going up in Pulaski County, Indiana? Their BZA required property value guarantee, and the solar company said, fine. Because it's a small part of what that Mammoth Solar Farm is going to spend. That's,
All right, got a couple more, quick.
I would like to make a motion.
Ryan, you wanted to make a
I'm
comment?
good.
You're good? Now, this is what I see, just throwing it out there. We need an attorney to run with the office, keep it functioning. How can we go out and hire an attorney, say, well, we're gonna take half of this money to here. We might only be able to employ it to June with the hope of getting more funding from the county council. I mean, yes, and hopefully maybe by June, if we were to go this route, we would have a decision or a recommendation saying these areas are not quite up to snuff, and work with the county council, attorneys, and the county commissioners actually, and see if we can get them adjusted. But if, yes,
What you're saying, Chuck,
He has resigned.
he has
he
resigned.
has now, but we need a new one. He has not, we've not.
The agreement was, Chuck, when he resigned, we would only use him in special cases if we need important information done, and we'd be in the process. And you guys worry about money.
Yeah.
We got a budget we gotta set. It's time for budget set. And I can tell you right now, $12,000 probably won't get. So we're gonna be in there asking for more money. Why don't we spend our money and ask, just like I did years ago, when I've been on saying, if you don't spend your money and there's money left over, they want to take it back from you.
Let me raise another question, again, it goes back to some history. Okay. Our attorney, Mr. Elliott, when he was our attorney, Mr. Elliott was the one that prepared our information, worked with the executive director. When something had to go to court, he put everything together.
Right.
And then, did the presentation. When that gentleman came on as the enforcement officer, he did such a good job of putting all that stuff together. And he took it over. All of a sudden, one of the jobs that Mr. Persinger has now and Mr. Elliott had at that time, Bob, he was so good at that no longer did Bruce do it. The only thing that Bruce did once in a while was go with Bob to court.
Well, I gotta give that credit to Brenda.
Pardon?
I gotta give that credit to Brenda.
Well, whoever it is.
Yeah.
But it went outside of the attorney's office, and Bruce was glad to get rid of it, of course, because we were doing such a good job of doing it. Quite frankly, we've got somebody sitting here on our board now with great experience in that. Nicole now has 3 years, or how long?
4.
4 years? Okay. Nicole has 4 years of doing this same kind of thing. I think she probably leaned more on our attorney than you did when you were there. But you have the kind of support that you could give to her as well, and or Brenda. So what I'm getting at is what you're talking about. We need to have two different kinds of attorneys, perhaps, one for the commission and one for office needs. I don't think the office needs are all that great.
I have to make a difference.
Like, on what basis?
Randy?
I called Chuck and I said, Chuck, you know, we're gonna make a decision about an attorney. And I really don't understand how an attorney is used for the APC. And I said, you know, I would just like for Ryan to, you know, give us some, enlighten us as to what we use the attorney for. And I can only reference the school business. I mean, Eastburg Community Schools had Ann Sabrowski and Art Sabrowski on the contract for many, many years. And Ann showed up to all the meetings and Arden showed up to all the meetings. And the school district made the decision when Ann was ready to retire that maybe that wasn't needed, that maybe we were going to go on an as needed basis. And we would pay the attorney for whatever our needs might be at the time, rather than have one on staff all the time. And I believe we have the option here with Kyle's resignation, appreciate what you've done, you know, to take a look at what alternatives and what possibilities we may have as we select the attorney. I mean, nothing says we have to follow the same format that we've had before. And I hope, Ryan told me today,
I talked to Ryan, he was gonna get up.
he said Nicole's been working on it. I don't want to deny Nicole her efforts to talk to us about what he said, well, Nicole uses him more than anything. So regardless of where we go, I would still at some point like to know what our attorney does for the APC.
And that's a valid question for the future. I don't know if you, for the sake of time, if you're willing to accept the motion.
We're not going to make a decision on an attorney tonight.
I didn't say that.
Well, I still like to understand why you all voted to have this ordinance reviewed by an attorney. And now, when it's within the budget that Kyle said it would cost, you're quibbling about the dollars.
Because we asked for
Because
extra
that-
funds and we're not getting the extra
That budget was
They
allocated
said
for
you've
the
got the
office.
funds. They didn't print it down. They approve additional appropriations every month if you sit in these council meetings.
Ed, I'm not gonna argue with you about whether they're gonna approve the appropriations or not. The initial motion was to have it reviewed pending the additional appropriations from the county council, which is what we went and did. They did not give it to us, so now we're back at the thing of how best to spend our money. It's not a question of whether, you know, you're asking us to take the funds that we would have to hire an attorney, not hire an attorney or hire one part-time or whatever like that, and potentially put back everything else that's sitting in court right now, which affects all the communities also too. That's what you're asking us to do, Kern. That's a very hard thing just to say, yeah, okay, let's go. That affects my community, his community, his community, his community. These are buildings that are unsafe structures that if they fall down and collapse on their own, could injure individuals, could cause other property damage, could cause all other kinds of stuff. That's what you're asking me to do. So forgive me for not jumping on the bandwagon and being like, yay, Rob, let's go. I'm trying to be smart with what we have allocated to us. I voted along with everybody to review it. Situations changed ever so slightly, so forgive me for wanting to step back and reassess where I'm at.
But I feel.
But I don't need to be chastised for that.
Why are they worried about
Okay, you
the
don't
money
need
that's
to be
set aside for
chastised.
unsafe buildings? That can't be used for anything else but unsafe building.
No, but our attorney,
The attorney.
if we don't have an attorney to go forth on those things, all that will stop.
I got a feeling when we go looking for a lawyer, we're gonna have to tell Ryan to up our budget. And I say, so what's the difference if we spend and don't have no money? And we're gonna have to ask for more later on the budget. Because I've always found out things like, if you don't spend that budget, they're not willing to give you no more. So why ain't we spend it to find out? Because I can tell you,
I
the
can tell
first
you our
time it
budget
comes
has went
back,
from 178,000 to almost 300,000 in the last 3 to 4 years.
yes,
So as far as spending money, we've done it. The council have been great supporters of this office
oh yeah,
and have stood behind us and have given us anything we have.
no,
They're the reason.
but we're
So-
asking for something that if we don't know, like you said, fits this, then how can we even, in say a year, 2 years, whenever the first sword, how can we sit here as an individual, say we're not gonna be in a
So-
lawsuit?
In July, we are going to go to the council and we're going to ask for Grace to go full-time for an extra
Yeah.
$32,000 a year with the benefits. We're gonna ask for $20,000 or $30,000 to help support the comprehensive plan, which hasn't been done. And oh, by the way, can you give us another 10,000 so we can get a lawyer?
Well, if that takes to us to know if we're right or wrong on that ordinance, and
Right.
this was the ordinance,
What happens if?
I would want it. That way I know if I can sit here and say what we're doing, or are we gonna get in a lawsuit
Right.
and cost us?
Until you have a mandated solar ordinance in the state,
No,
who is
I
going to
didn't
approve
say
it?
change the ordinance. I'm saying, look at the ordinance.
I
With
have
the
one
question
one
we have,
question.
right? You keep wanting to go back to number 7. I'm saying, look at the ordinance we got. And we got questions on it. Let's find out before we get our butts or our ass in a deep lawsuit in the future. We voted to move on. Why don't we move on?
Because the situation has changed.
The situation has changed. They
The
just
situation has
said,
changed. They
they
said,
was not
use
gonna
your
give
own
us money
funds.
right now.
We will not.
Go ahead and use your money.
All right,
Point of order.
bring this back. Mr. Highland, do you have a motion or contemplating?
yes. For the sake of time, because I don't think this is ultimately going to get resolved tonight, I would make the motion that BZA pursue funding for the lawsuit that they want to file, or excuse me, the lawyer they want to have review the ordinance, that they pursue that funding with the county council, and simultaneously that we ask Mr. Kaus here in coordination with Ryan or Mr. Persinger to pursue that source of free funding, free legal service through the state. So we can be approaching those two things simultaneously and see what evolves from that and give us more time to discuss this.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second, any other discussion? Call the roll.
Atkins,
Don't quite understand that.
I'll restate it. My motion is to have the BZA go to the county council to request funding for the attorney that they plan to hire to review the ordinance. And that Bob Kaus with Mr. Malott and or Mr. Persinger pursue the source that he mentioned of free legal services through the state to see what's available and whether they can review the ordinance. So we're trying to approach it two different ways that requires no funding from the APC yet. And we can see what comes of this and then see what we choose to do after that.
I agree with that to the point. As long as everybody in this room will leave the county council alone, because the stuff I heard out of the county council, I can tell people in this room has went underneath the door and talked to them. We need to stop that in here, like Bob said earlier. This thing that's going on between us needs to stop.
That's out of order.
Not in out of order.
Yes,
I had the floor and I'm saying what I know went on.
You're making accusations.
The accusations are true, Chuck.
so we've got.
You don't want to.
Hold on a minute. Back up just a little. Now, one of the issues that we've got here is I'm sure that BZA would love for this group to join them in hiring this because, we seemingly already have their approval to use some monies, that sort of thing. So it would eliminate a problem there. My perception is that that is not something that this group wants to do. So I guess I would like to see just a show of hands, if we were to make the motion, if you would, wait for the motion you made, I seconded. We can back that up for just a minute. Can we see if there is approval here to join in what the BZA determined to do tonight. My perception is that there is not, you know, we don't have the votes, I don't think, to do that. And so if we don't have those votes to do that, then the next best thing is what we have talked about here. But let's, you know, just by a show of hands, how many would favor APC joining with the action of the BZA? Here tonight, how many would favor doing that?
Under
Yeah,
clarification.
under some circumstance.
Yeah,
Right.
under some circumstances,
Yeah.
yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Independent of one. And I would abstain.
Okay, so if we don't have the votes to join APC, or maybe we ought to make a motion to that so that we can make it official.
We have.
I understand that, but maybe we ought to
We should vote on the motion.
reserve it to make it official that we don't have the votes, or that we do have the votes.
Yeah.
Well, I call the vote for the motion on the table.
I have one question before we continue on. So I will reach out to Amy, which, you know, with Jonesboro, I've done multiple times for legal advice on ordinances and everything like that. If they come back and they say, we don't see anything wrong, are we done? Or are we gonna continue on? That's what I'm asking him. Or is this, you would still want to
That
hire
would be one
another
facet.
person?
And we would also then want the opinion that is already going to be rendered for the BZA. We'd be doing these things simultaneously. We would get an opinion here. We might get a differing opinion here. Certainly,
So at the end of the
if
day,
both of them were
at the
to
end of-
coincide, yeah, we'd be done.
if
Okay?
Call question.
Okay. So do we need to repeat? We know what we're voting for? BZA to find funding through county council. We will opt to AIM, or I know there's county level organizations that they can check with.
and Brady, I'll get with you and Ed on the specifics of that, what you want with that, and I'll lay it out. I'll include you all on that.
All right. Call the roll.
Atkins,
My take on what come out of the county council was different than what Bob's was. I don't know that I can support that because I want to believe that if we needed, money from the county council, they'd give it to us.
Think they would?
I believe they would.
Okay,
That's what I left with.
Was that a question I had?
What's your vote, Randy?
Get the BZA.
We're doing voting now, hopefully.
Okay,
Said yes?
yes.
Bothwell,
Yes.
Royals,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
House,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Hicks,
I need to sustain.
Hunt,
Yes.
Maynard,
Yeah.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Wright.
And I'll abstain.
Got enough?
Abstain.
Passes 10 to, thank you.
Do we need to make a motion to make it official on the record? Whether or not we would join. You'd like to see that? Well, just as a supporting kind of thing to the vote that we've just taken. I'd make a motion that we join the BZA in supporting their decision to hire this gentleman to review.
I second that.
Which is to say, spend the money out of our 10,000.
Yeah.
You didn't mention that.
Well, if we're going to join them, then we're going to be in this with them financially as well.
That's just what we just voted not to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think.
Taxpayer money down the food.
I want it on the record
We just had it on.
that we're not gonna support that. Okay, that's what we're doing.
Well, to their point, I think by saying BZA should secure their own funding through council, or we should pursue with AIM, I think that says.
That answers the question.
Like,
The question I got is,
let's
if the
just
council,
try it.
if they go to retain this attorney and then they go to the council and the council doesn't fund it for some reason, are we gonna help them?
Not yet.
Then we have no lawyer from them, right? We just lost half of what we said we was gonna do. Am I missing? They're going to seek.
They're still going to seek.
Maybe they didn't get it.
Advice through the
So
state.
what you're saying to BZA is, we're just a lone gut out there, and if this board don't say, here's some money, here's this, we won't be sent, I ain't used for, screw your ass, you're out.
Well, you have, by code, you have
And
to.
it's like this board is telling the BZA what to do.
I make the motion. As I stated before, who was it? Somebody seconded it.
I did.
Randy did, so can we move the point, please?
So the question is,
The question is what?
what is your motion again?
The motion is to join the BZA and the decision that they have made to pursue the review of the ordinance by this gentleman.
And so to clarify, you're saying to spend out of our budget for our attorney, and you're specifically saying
Support
this
them,
attorney,
support them financially
and specifically this attorney.
if necessary.
Thank you.
I thought we was gonna wait on the answer.
Yeah, that's what we just passed that. So what's your point?
My point is,
It's
if
what he's trying
you
to
say
say right
no, no, and
Well, no.
so that it's official, that you don't want to be a part of this thing with the BZA.
I'm not saying that because I'm saying we're looking at two avenues
We have something to do first, then we can tender
and
that.
we can entertain.
Well, we got a motion, got a second. By our rules, we can move on, take a vote. And we can end this meeting.
Thank you.
Is that it? All of them?
Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Yes,
Royals,
No.
Cottle,
Yes.
Cows,
I guess I'm gonna abstain because everything for me is contingent upon hearing back from other attorneys.
Hiley,
No.
Hicks,
You just abstain.
Hunt,
No.
Maynard,
Yeah.
Knuckles,
I'm gonna abstain also, because I'd like to see what the other, what the other avenues,
Todd,
it's on that tree.
I abstain. I feel the same as these gentlemen to my left.
Wright.
Staying for conflict of interest.
It's 4, 3, and 5.
Or did not pass? Okay. All right. So it does go back. Do we need to start the process of hiring an attorney to service the office, board, things like that? I know you guys were trying to get a list up of everything that our attorney is expected to do.
And right now Kyle said that he is willing for the first quarter, to stay with us.
So we find,
I know Nicole's, we don't know whether to keep sending stuff to him or not. I mean, she'd be the, get just talk real quick. I mean, I talk to Kyle 2 or 3 times a week, what I've got going on. Nicole sometimes talks to him every day, so.
As you've noticed, our ordinance is worded really, really delicately. So in order for me to understand how to do my job, I have to get a hold of Kyle on a daily basis. Sorry, my nose is all stuffed up and it's been a long day. One of the things I gotta do is the conflicts between the ordinance, because we've got some things that is in our nuisance that should be in our area of our zoning, and then we've got some stuff that is off in the accessory buildings that should definitely be in the nuisance. In order for me to do my job, I have to be able to contact my lawyer at any given time to make sure I am doing my job. Because at the end of the day, if the judge is told that I did something incorrectly, that's done. We can't move forward. We can be sued on that point. If I don't have contact with him on a most timely or in a daily basis, there's no reason for code enforcement to do her job. Because everything I do is on a gray line. I have to stay off the property lines. I have to be at a distance. I have to have permission. And if any of those get ignored, we can be sued.
But as far as what Kyle's doing, what's the-
Kyle helps me get with the conflicts between the ordinance, making sure and tagging disabled vehicles, tagging uninhabitable homes, tagging violations on properties itself that doesn't include cars or vehicles or homes, getting our demo contracts signed and in place, getting court orders and agreements done, getting properties into court, figuring out dates that will work for myself and him. And of course, if we have witnesses coming, just like I had on last Friday, I had 2 witnesses with our court. And in order to make sure that it would conflict with them, I had to make sure our lawyer that was presenting us was there on time. Our witnesses would be there on time, and of course myself, and if anything, make sure that my director was in place. So I have to make sure that everybody's timelines will come to at the end. Working with individuals who are buying on land contracts. Again, that's a gray area. They don't own the property, but they're buying on contract. But there is a violation. How do we handle that? Who do we take to court at the end of the day? Is it the land contract or is it the homeowner? Individuals who have bought properties from other individuals that should not be living in homes. We have came across that multiple times. I'm pretty sure, Bob, you've knocked on a few uninhabitable homes with people living inside of it. Do you not contact your lawyer and be like, how do we do this? They obviously sold it properly, but at the same time, they did not mention anything about the home. And then making sure everything is ready for court.
You ever go to a house like Bob went to at 1616 East 35th Street? And,
I was the one that dealt with it at the end.
yeah, and, yeah.
I was the one that finished that court hearing.
He put they put a little sign up there, and he flipped the sign around, and said, anybody who comes on this property is gonna be shot. He got threatened.
Oh, I've been threatened about being shot if I walk on my property.
Robert, you got a question?
Brian, what's your recommendation?
On top of that, the other stuff, I mean, Kyle does all the legalities, the 3 public hearings we had tonight, and we're done. He's gonna do the legalese to that. He's gonna put stuff together so I can take to all the towns, the commissioners, certifications.
What's your recommendation, Brian? About, did you say you've already talked with him about providing services?
He said he's willing to stay on for the first quarter. I can tell you the office is upset about losing Kyle. I know that's not our choice. But as far as having a lawyer every day, we spend $1,000 a month. And him and Bruce too, Elliot. We had someone who, if we called, they call us back. So if we needed something, we had a call, within the day. All right, Bob, Bruce, was that way with you too? We get into situations when we're out there like Nicole's talking about, we run into things do we have authority to step on? Do we have authority to step in?
Again, Brian, what is your recommendation?
Or
We need to,
For the immediate future. Kyle is definitely gone. You say through the first quarter, is that what you said you did?
Yeah, I definitely do that. I told
But you're going,
Rex, I told Chuck, I told
but you'd be
Brian
going
to
after
do that.
that. But we got this.
we better focus on it.
We got to be determined what we are going to do from that point.
So we're, again, right now, we're coming out of demo season, which we've got 1 house down. We're working on number 2. Last year, we had 12 down by June 1st.
That was my question. How much is sitting in the pipeline?
I have over 180 cases. I have at least 4 ready to move forward into court, but I have waited because of the fact that I had no idea who I was using as a lawyer at the time. And I have over 60 complaints that I have yet to make to that, again, most of those are in a gray area that I need to make sure before I heading out there, all my ducks are in a row.
So we're looking at, according to your recommendation, we're already through 1 month. So we've got February and March. If we are to continue utilizing Kyle's services.
That would take us down to 90,000.
So we need to be thinking about where we're going to go. So, okay, can we move on, go home now?
Well, I was just gonna offer something. I'm anxious to go home too. And maybe this will help conclude it. My thought, and you guys see what you think about it, is that we should turn the issue of hiring the APC's attorney over to the executive committee. Let them do define a contract, do a search, make a recommendation.
I understand what you're saying. I think that's something we ought to do as a group.
Well, they would bring it back to us as a group with a recommendation.
They can consider that. We do need to move forward. Sure.
And that's what the executive committee's for, so.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Yeah, we would still have the whole group make.
But we need to know that executive committee needs to examine several different attorneys.
Oh, yeah, we absolutely never hired.
We've had processes before where the executive committee was supposed to do something. They weren't even called together to do it. And it ended up that one or two people, for example, when our executive director was hired this last time, executive committee was left out of it altogether.
Well, if Chuck doesn't call an executive committee meeting, I'll personally be.
All right, so I would say that the executive, I would ask Ryan maybe to put the word out, or through Jason or Justin, these are HR in this county, put the word out that we're hiring, looking for an
I
attorney.
mean, we can publicate it.
Right, get the word out, and then we as an executive committee, the 6 members now, right? Once we get some feedback, we'll call a meeting to review and potentially interview.
I think included in that should be the BZA. You ought to have BZA, I don't know how they would do this, but that attorney services them as well. And I think they ought to be a part of the review process.
I always felt that way too. That's when we was doing the solar ordinance. That's why I pushed, because it was gonna fall back on them, whatever their part was. They should at least have a say so in it. If you don't, all you're telling them to do, grab your ankles, take whatever we have.
I support what Bob says, but I think that BZA needs to be included by, somebody sitting in with the executive committee for the review of the process.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Pardon?
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that's an APC function.
Yeah.
They should hire the attorney with the help of the executive committee and bringing it before the full board. And then how often have you done something for the BZA? Very often?
Yeah, I would say yes. I mean, when I
Okay.
was hired, Ed was part of the process. And I mean,
All the time.
I worked with Ed, times, and I mean, I feel like I represent both of you guys. I know it's the APC does it, but I
And the
mean,
last time when we hired you.
yeah,
and
the BZA was involved, and I know that they appreciated that.
Okay, how were they?
I do have involvement with the BZA. Agree, Ed?
Boy, that's said it on the interview.
Okay. I won't oppose that.
Okay,
So what do we say?
Position, who's gonna post the position?
well, we can put it through channel and, Justin can post it out there on his methods of getting the message out there.
You got job description?
Job
Well,
description.
I was gonna say, maybe the first order of business would be the executive committee meet just to review the job description and the potential contract.
Do we need to go back to the council for more money?
No, that's what that's what we're getting paid the big bucks for.
Somebody else can do it the next time.
All right. So, see what we got on file as far as descriptions. Maybe get it out to us. We'll have to set some type of date, time that we can meet. But in the meantime, to get the word out there, so we're not delayed.
Who is, when did we finally decide on that? Is the BZA going to be a part of that?
I have no objection.
I'm not gonna do it. Bob has no objection. But you're,
We've done it before that way.
I know we've done it before that way. That's the reason I was asking for it this time, and there was objection to that. Has that been noted, and how are we directing to that? We just gotta have the president be the person, or is he to pick himself and another person?
Randy's on there also.
Yeah, I
And
know.
Randy's part of our executive committee, so
Right.
Yeah.
I would think just, we've already got one on there, so if that wants to make a trip on them, or another one of his appointments, doesn't matter to me. Ed, you're more than welcome to come. We got Randy, and then, hopefully we can make a date that's, accommodating for most everybody, hopefully
We
everybody.
got Randy and Ed and our.
Our six.
Okay, good.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, move to table all other items uncovered today's meeting and adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes. And when we disagree, stay here and have fun.